Toothy, and tonight we'll be talking about a couple of different topics here. So we'll be talking about the priorities that behavior has had over both necessary and unnecessary changes made to the game, along with the Bloodlust experiment, the proposed PTB changes, and DC penalties. Now, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Vamp, and I'm mostly an Oni main. I've been playing the game for 3,600 hours since July of 2017, if I'm not mistaken. And with me tonight, I have. Oh, I forgot to update the tags here. We have Zimnex, Welsh,
Howdy.
Karen, Dwight,
Hello.
Hello.
Morgan, or
Hello.
Morgall.
Yeah, you can say Morgan.
Okay, and then Posh.
Hi.
So we'll just go in order for everybody to be able to introduce themselves. So Zim, could you please introduce yourself first?
Name's Zim, or Zimnex, I guess. Play a lot of Legion. It's kind of what I'm known for. Stream sometimes. I have a lot of hours in DVD. That's about it.
Alright. Welsh, could you introduce yourself?
I'm Welsh. I'm like relatively new to DBD, probably compared to like all the rest of the people here. It was kind of like my quarantine game, but I'm kind of hyper obsessive, so I haven't really been doing too much but play DBD since I started. I'm a degenerate Hunter's One Trick and a boosted ass Survivor, but I play both sides and yeah, I like DBD.
Okay, and then Karen, could you please introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Sistakaren. I'm playing mostly Survivor, but I also have a lot of hours experience on Hillbilly. I have about 4,000 hours this game, and I think next month is going to be my 4-year anniversary playing this game. And so yeah, happy to be here as always.
Awesome, and then Dwight, can you introduce yourself?
Sure thing. I am Dwight, and I've been playing DVD since around after Pig came out. I have over 2,000 hours in the game. I'm mostly a Survivor main, but I do play a little bit of Killer as well.
Okay, and Morg?
Hi, I'm Morgan. I also stream sometimes. I started playing Dead by Daylight right after Legion. Yeah, good time. Yeah, good. Yeah, good
really
time.
good times. And how about you, Posh?
Moonwalking Legion.
I am Poshums. You can call me Posh. I started playing DBD right after Plague was released, so right in the head-on area. And yeah, I mostly play Survivor, pretty much exclusively Survivor. I am a very babu killer.
Alright, well now we got the introductions out of the way, I'll start off with our first topic. So, as we know, Behavior's been doing a lot of changes to Dead by Daylight. So, for instance, like they've been updating killers, maps, etc. But I do want to go over, because we already know the changes, but I wanted to go over the priorities. Like, do we feel like their priorities are going in the right direction? If not, where do we think they should be focusing on next? We'd like to start off with that.
Well, I don't think their priorities really make sense. Like, I think the first thing is the fact that they changed Billy over any other killer in the game. When like Deathslinger came out and everyone everywhere complains about Deathslinger, and they decided to take a killer who I think everybody agrees was pretty fun and fair except for his add-ons, and changed him to nerf him for some reason, and still have not touched Deathslinger.
Yeah, I mean they simultaneously acknowledge that Billy was like fun to play against and a really engaging killer, and also that they're going to nerf him severely. So
Also, the change they made no sense. Like, I don't think I've ever been backdrabbed by a Billy and thought, darn, that kid's just too unfun.
yeah, exactly. It's just really like questionable. Like you get like I guess like the people I play with, the thought was they were trying to get rid of like chainsaw face camping, but like you can still just do that and not rev the chainsaws. So like it's
Yeah, I think that one hurt the most. Like I feel like
Yeah.
like in that PTB, like when they introduced those changes, I think I was just devastated. Like I feel like I took it extremely hard. And I know they had to correct it later, but like I was like, you can't even do literally anything that you could normally do with Billy. Like that's the fun part of Billy. And all it does is desensitize people from using the saw, but what if nobody wants to play against a Billy? Like what the hell?
yeah.
Yeah, it's not fun. I want to get curved.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
That's what I'm
legitimately,
saying.
the one thing that actually makes me so happy is whenever I see a Billy that just curves around a pallet and then, they just down me. Like, I remember the other day on my stream, like, I don't know if Prague noticed or not, or sorry, I should probably call you Welsh, but like, I legitimately ended up being so happy when we had a hillbilly that was just curving around pallets.
Yeah, man, because it's super engaging. Like it's so fun. Like I think, you know, I play pretty like literally exclusively Huntress, but I can even acknowledge that in terms of just like engagement, like I don't think there's really a second to Billy. Like it's so fun. Like every time you get to a pallet, there's always like a really unique interaction where like you can like try to like get him to respect it with the chainsaw depending on where your loop is and where your windows are, and then he can like zone with the chainsaw. There's like it's just such a really interesting dynamic. And again, for them to just acknowledge like we love Billy and the way he works, like nerf. It's like what?
Right, and like the thing about it is like, they were talking about how Billy was like perfectly balanced. They actually explained exactly how he had counterplay and how he was fair and also balanced for the game. But then they were like, so because he is like this, we're
gonna
nerfing
nerf
him.
We're gonna nerf him. Yeah.
Billy
Makes
is
perfect
fair and
sense.
balanced, Anyway.
Let's take it away.
Oh, no. And like I do, one thing I do agree that like InstaSaw needed to go. Like
Absolutely.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
like that
but
was
not
pretty-
Billy in general.
like I'm genuinely fearful because again I only play Huntress, but so it's the same thing with Huntress. Like Eerie Head needs to go, but I can't wait for the fucking behavior update where it's like Huntress is a well balanced killer that people genuinely enjoy playing against. By the way, 3 hatchets max. Have fun.
Or you hold your hatchet for too long and you burn your hand.
Yeah,
Right, exactly. Like that's the yes.
you get
And
shoulder cramps and you have to put your
Yeah,
Oh, this
that's
hatchet's
exactly
too
what I see
heavy.
happening.
And it just to me it's just so heartbreaking because like I see what was so nice about like I was so excited about this tone. I'm like so I'm playing against all these hillbillies, but I play against the angriest gamers trying to learn hillbilly, and it's awful. They're so mad, they're so frustrated. They're just like, what the fuck is this killer? And I'm just like,
I mean, like to the, I guess like to their credit, like I feel like the cooldown only really affects you if you're like either going against like cracked survivors or you're like not a great Billy yourself. Like I feel like if within like 3 or 4 curves, if you can't get somebody and you overheat, that's like kind of, I don't want to say it's kind of your fault. I'll say it, but like why? Like why does it even need to exist? Like
Yeah,
well, no, I will say though, like if let's say like you're in Rotten Fields, right, and like you're kind of like looking for survivors at the beginning of the game, right? They're kind of grouped up together, so you're like stalling around for a little bit, and then you find them. You can down one, but you cannot down all of them right away because your
No.
overheat will kick in. And so to me, that's the dumbest part of overheat.
Yeah.
I was like, why?
That's a good point. I almost thought that like it would be a good change if they like when you down someone with the chainsaw, you just like reset your cooldown. Like I don't know why that isn't a thing. You should get rewarded for using your power effectively, but because if you're using it for mobility, then like you're kind of like losing out on your ability to do the fun thing with hillbilly when you actually find somebody.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's so dumb. Like, or I remember one time too. Like, I think I downed somebody and I went to go guard the gates. I went to the wrong gate, and then for me to be able to go to the other gate because I just downed somebody, right? Like, and then I just like gone across the map. I had to like just fucking walk over there, and I'm just like, "Are you fucking kidding me? Like, what is this? Like, why is this even punishing? Like,
Yeah,
what did I do wrong?"
exactly. Like, why are you being punished for like doubting someone? Basically, like I don't understand. It just felt like such a betrayal because I feel like Billy was just like, at least for me, he was so near and dear to my heart. Like I never played him, but I was always so excited when it was a Billy, especially if it was someone that was like really good, like had gone up against before. I was like, oh heck yeah, it's time for another game. And then they nerfed him, and I was like, "Do I even wanna play this game anymore?" You took away the one thing I genuinely enjoyed, which was going up against curved Billies.
I mean, most of the like cracked killers that I've played against were like the 6K, 7K hour billies who like had this insane devotion to this character like since 2016, like full legacy, And they were like, it was all like I said, it was always fun. It's never like we'll probably get into it later, but some killers where you literally just see them at the start of the game and you just wish you were playing another fucking video game. But Billy, like, I don't think anybody can deny that like you were always happy to see a hillbilly, and if they were good and you got stomped, it was like that guy fucking deserved it. Like that guy really like played well. And now it's just like it's still that. Like I'm not gonna sit here and say that like Billy's dead, you can't play Billy anymore. Like I think that's like a little overly dramatic.
But I do think that they
But-
did hurt his fun factor at the end of the day, because like
Oh, for sure.
for me, just seeing a Billy, like you hear my voice right now, just imagine multiplying the pitch of it just upwards whenever you see a Billy.
Oh yeah.
Like
Absolutely.
it's just so good to see a Billy. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, like they just like, yeah, absolutely. Like to me, he absolutely is still fun to play. Like I use like it's like either if I get running overheat, it's usually because I'm like warming. It's like my first game of the day, or I haven't played for 2 weeks. Billy for 2 weeks. I'm like, fuck, okay, well I'm boosted, whatever. But then you get the dumb parts, like the situations I talked about. But I think Posh is right though. Like I actually did view it as betrayal. I was just like, you like this is my man, like my man. Like hello, I've put like an ungodly amount of hours. Like I have like of all of my hours in killer, like 90% of them are Billy for sure. So it definitely felt like a betrayal, especially when you think about all the other bullshit mechanics in the game. You're kind of like, why? But why
Why this
Billy?
one?
Why?
Yeah.
To
Why?
like to go away from like, and I don't mean to like whataboutism here, but like again, so like Spirit, like how excited are you when you load into a lobby and you see that blue bitch walking across the middle of fucking Azeroth? You're like, oh boy, I
Or,
can't wait.
You
Yeah,
see that guy with the
basically.
tin can on his face? Oh wait, sorry, it's a pyramid. My bad.
Oh.
You see him walking up to you, and then it's like, well, fuck, I'm done. I don't want to play
You
this.
hear the music.
Yeah.
I'm out of it. I like
Yes.
my will to live is like already halved when it's like a
Yeah.
Deathslinger or a Pyramid Head.
Yeah,
Oh
like those
yeah, it's
5
hard to
orbs.
care. Like once I hear
One orb.
Deathslinger or something, I like my brain, like 50% of my will to live is gone already from the game.
Just the groan of pain.
The moment I hear Deathslinger, I'm just like, I want a DC.
Yeah, I want to leave. I'm gone.
You know what is funny about the whole Billy thing though is that like, see, I mained Legion like after they got changed, right? Because I didn't find old Legion fun. I don't think anyone did. But I always played Legion and Billy after they changed Legion. So I used to play Billy and Legion, and then after they changed Billy, I just never touched him again. I feel like these aren't it's not random.
Yeah, no, you're not alone. Like a lot of people, I think, haven't touched him again, especially because he felt fucking weird around then. Like
He was clunky.
he
He really
felt
was weird.
much better. Like because I was talking to, I think Tofu. I was talking to him because he had taken a long break from Billy. And both of us thought he was better, but then the people who never stopped playing Billy or kind of playing him regularly didn't really notice the change. But I thought whatever they did most recently to him, he feels good to play for sure right now. But it's just why. But then the other thing is, right, you don't have any players now. Like, why would you put the time in to learn Billy when number one, it's not even if at your best, he's not the strongest killer, right? Like he's still not the strongest killer even at his best. And two, why play Billy when you just like no brain, play some like many other characters that require way less effort way less time and effort to put in.
I think
Yeah.
as far as priorities come, that's like definitely a huge fucking like I don't think anyone can even deny that they seem to like make these killers that you can just like 4K with your first game and like you can put like maybe 3 days into it and just you're literally playing it at its full potential, and like the amount of like chase options for the survivor are like completely negligible. Like we've been talking about Deathslinger, I mean we can just go with that. It's just so like what are you gonna do? Like he just spams like he just spams aiming the gun, and you just like if you don't juke, you get shot. If you do juke, he zones you into eternity and M1s you. Like that's the interaction. Like all that shit I was talking about it earlier with Billy, it's just like not there. And like they keep making killers like that. Like the last two have been good. I think Blight and the Twins have real potential, but they had such a bad stretch, man, with like what was it, like Deathslinger, Pyramid Head, like back to back, like 2 killers basically designed for you to just like pick them up and just stomp people without
Yeah,
Especially
and the threading work on top of it.
And then the
Yes.
year before we
Yeah.
had like the other 1-2 punch, which was Spirit into Legion.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Legion, the killer that almost killed the game.
Pretty
baby.
much.
Yeah, for real. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
yeah, that
It's
was painful to
definitely-
come into.
Yeah. I luckily came in like just kind of like at the end where they were already like, yeah, we're working on it, okay. And I didn't have to deal with it that much.
Lucky.
But
I loaded
yeah.
and I'm like, why is he walking backwards?
I got it one game. I think I
Code's got
got
some
in.
swagger, not gonna lie.
I think I got in when they were like making it like bannable if you ran it, so no one was running it when I started playing, and I was like, oh, thank
That, like,
God.
Oh, the double mend.
Or like colder
I think so.
mixtape. That was the add-on combo, right?
I'm gonna be honest. When
I
old
can't
Legion was
remember.
a thing, I had like a daily for Legion. I was like, so you know what I'm gonna do? I'm just gonna chase people down as a 110 killer. And I put on the mend add-ons when they were bugged, and I didn't realize it. And I was like,
Oh
wait,
no.
why are they still in the deep wound state? Why haven't they mended? And then later on, they're like, dude, what the hell is that mend time? I was like, what do you mean? That mending took 2 minutes. And then I searched it up, and it turns out there was an infinite mend bug.
I did that on accident. I
Yeah.
actually just ran those add-ons. I didn't even know they were bugged.
Me neither. Like, normally, if I were ever to play Legion for, like, a daily, it would be for, like, I would do their speed add-ons and, like, spam the lunge in order to, like, make a lot of distance. Because you'd move, like, super fast with that. And then that would just be it. And I wouldn't, like, spam, like, the frenzy, but what I would do is I would just, put you in the injured state, then, like, chase you down afterwards.
So like new Legion, basically.
Yeah, new Legion, except you were 4.4. That's whenever I had a daily.
It's just painful, by the way. I don't know if anyone played old Legion. That actually
Dude,
sucked.
I actually tried so hard to not moonwalk people. What ended up happening is because I was 4.4 with, like, no chase capabilities, the chase would actually drop and they would still go down anyways. So to
It was
usually
like-
try
it
to
was
play
a good time. During
nice.
that time was like I think I remember distinctly a friend of mine who was we're playing against a Billy and he got tunnel off hook, right? And in borrowed time state, the Billy moonwalked him and I was like I lost it on this man in post game chat. I was like, "You gotta be kidding me! Like,
Ain't no
why are you
way.
so trash? Like, you're a hillbilly. Fuck you!" And I was like, God, I just went off. I was so mad. I don't think I've ever been that angry in DVD other than that time.
That's a hard throw, though. If somebody's moonwalking on you to like push your mend timer or like the proposed DS changes, like wait 30 seconds so your DS goes away, like you're fucking throwing the game, man. Like I'm sorry.
It just becomes a thing where you get to have the opportunity to ruin the game for somebody, when in reality it's like, is that really what we want? I hope not.
No, but there's so many other ways to just do that. Like you could literally just you can just face camp somebody on first hook and then like they'll do all the gens and leave. Like, there's so many more like simple ways to just BM somebody where it's like, adding I don't want to, again, I do not want this to turn into a 2-hour conversation about decisive strike because boy, it'll happen. But if DS had a 30-second timer that frees when you were in a chase, they've said before, like, well, people will just moonwalk or like cloak his wraith around it. It's like, bro, okay, like again, if you're chasing somebody for 30 seconds off of every hook, that's just base. You're throwing. You're gonna lose. You're gonna lose all the gens. And like, if you can't vault a fucking window as Survivor, like if you can't make it somewhere safe in 30 seconds, like you deserve to go down.
I think for the most part I do agree with that, but we also have to keep in mind certain maps like Red Shop, which is literally just, Dead Zone, the movie.
Yeah, but you can make it like you do within 30 seconds. I think anywhere on that map you could run to Shack, and that's a start.
I think on most maps you can.
Assuming the pallet didn't get megged like 2 minutes into the game, which happens.
Now, one thing I do want to bring up though is like, so we're talking about how it wasn't really necessary for them to change Billy. So if not Billy, who deserved it more?
Deathslinger.
Deathslinger, Pyramid Head, Freddy.
No, I would say Freddy, hands down.
Oh yeah, Freddy too.
Hag.
I think Freddy and Deathslinger would be my top two.
Yeah, I could agree with that.
My top three would probably be Freddy, Deathslinger, Pyramid Head, because like, here's the thing. I'm not the person who's like, hey, nerf a killer here, because I think at the end of the day, every killer should be strong, but I think that every killer should have some kind of a learning curve to them where you have to learn them to be good with them. So for instance, like when it comes to Deathslinger, my idea was that, he would have like a very short wind-up time where like, he picks up his gun, but you see him putting down his gun would be kind of sluggish. And you could give him map pressure, you could update his add-ons, and because like he has this wind-up time, you're no longer just pressing AD across the entire map.
Huge. I made this comparison before, but it's like Huntress is generally acknowledged to be like a pretty respectable killer, and like when you press M2 as Huntress on a loop, that's a huge fucking deal. Like that's a massive like decision to like, I'm pulling a hatchet out here. You get slowed down. You got to charge it up.
You gotta make it the right decision as well, because if you wind up your hatchet and they run past the pallet, well, You're not gonna get that hit.
But see, that's the thing. Then, if they run past the pallet on certain loops, they might run into like a low point on the loop, and then if they don't crouch, you can hit them over the thing. So there's like interaction, which is a word I'm going to use about 12 zillion times. There's an actual interaction. There's an element of interaction between you and the survivor. You know what I mean? Whereas a game with Deathslinger, like I said it before, it's literally like bang, 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 bang. Okay, M1. Like that's it. Like that's the entire situation. And if you don't juke or do something, you just get shot. So like, outplayed, I guess.
I can't tell you how many times I've been hit by a Deathslinger and I literally didn't fucking hear him at all.
Yep.
Or it's just like I'm kind of wondering. I mean, I know they're not the same killer at all, but they have similar elements to them, and I'm wondering how they got Huntress so right and they got him so bad. Like, you get shot and you don't even know where he is. You don't hear him at all, and you're just all of a sudden shot. And then also, like, she has, like you said, the clear wind up, like, and you're punished if you pull it up and then you put it down and you're like, oh shit.
Well,
whereas like him, it's like you can just put it up and shoot it. Like there's really no there's no charge to it. You can barely hear if he's put it up or not. Like there's a clear cue when Huntress raises, and you know to look for it.
I think it's because like Huntress is acknowledged to be like a really difficult killer, and that just does not seem to be the market like that they did before that they were catering to. Like they weren't catering towards obsessives like me who will spend like 4 months literally playing one killer like for hours and hours a day, trying to master it. They're trying to cater to like people who literally have played the game for 100 hours and get pissed off because toxic survive with friends and they just want a killer that has like.
They want a killer that basically requires no effort.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's literally it.
Yeah, like Freddy and Deathslinger are so frustrating, at least for me, because I can go against somebody who has literally 100 hours in the game and I'll die. Not because I played badly, but because it's just that killer. And it's so frustrating.
Oh, huge. Yeah. And like, I think the console problem has made it worse. Like a lot of the, like, especially with Freddy, like people complain about his lunge range, but also with like the ping that console just seems to add naturally. Like any kind of saucy play of like trying to get someone whiffed through a pallet, like just doesn't work because they just hit you from like 6 miles back.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't hit you there, then he'll just spam he'll spam snares, and then like somebody could have 15,000 hours in this game and it literally doesn't matter. Like unless you can spin him, which is hilarious and works more often than it should. It's not like you're gonna get hit. Like it's just an inevitability.
Yeah. I feel like making killers easier to pick up is yet another stab in the back of veteran players. I feel like there's so many people who invested a lot of time into like Huntress and Billy and stuff like that. People who really like, invested a lot of time in these killers to get good at them. And then they put in killers like Deathslinger and like Oni and
it's
Pyramid Head, where it's like you can just pick them up and be good at them in a couple 100 hours. And it's like, well, why the fuck did I sink like multiple thousands of hours into being a Billy when I could have just, waited a couple months and picked up this bitch?
Oh, I agree. Like,
though, right? There's that like superiority too. That means I'm just gonna sound terrible. I'm just gonna put it out there, but there is the superiority of you being like, "Hey, look at me! I did well for killing that work and skill." Like, you know what I mean? Like, so there's that narcissistic part of you that is fine with that because you're just like, whatever. Like, I can like at least I know how to play. An actual killer requires skill. Haha. No, I'm joking. Maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I'm not joking that much.
No. You're right. You're right. You right, Karen.
I'll admit, I'll admit, Oni's my favorite killer of all time, both in the design and the power aspect, because I really love how his power is. But I will admit, I really wish he had a higher skill cap to him. Like, I wish he wasn't just, the pub stomper he is. Like, I wish that, he'd have the capability of being better against really good teams, but, like, at the same time, I wish he would have, like, the ability to have a higher skill cap behind him as well.
I think Oni's skill cap comes more from, like, game... I don't want to... Like, game knowledge is kind of what I'm going for. Like, because you need M1, like you need a 115 M1 to like start playing the game, right? Like map knowledge and knowing, if you're on a shitty map and you see someone in a good setup, like, okay, I can't chase here. You know what I mean? Like that is kind of where the skill of Oni comes in. I'm like, that's why I don't play Oni, because I'm an idiot and every time I see someone I have to down them, which is why I play. But that's like I think it's like yes, like in power, like Billy is just kind of like more difficult, like risk reward, like more reward for more risk. But I think Oni definitely does. Like I think when we're talking about examples of bad killers, like I would not put Oni on that list at all.
Oh yeah, I don't know. I feel like Billy, there's definitely a bigger punishment for not like hitting your saw, and that's kind of the big thing that I hate about going against Oni is because I'll fucking dodge one of his hits and then I'm immediately back in, like I'm not out of the woods at all.
Yeah, 'cause
Whereas
he
like
has-
Billy, if I dodge a fucking saw, I'm like, okay, well I'm out, bye.
Yeah, because when it comes to Oni, he has like a faster charge by half a second, and on top of that, he has like a shorter cooldown, if I'm not mistaken. Like Billy's is like 3 seconds, Oni's is like 2.
Yeah, you get punished hard with Billy. That
Yeah.
used to be like
Yeah.
such a like when people were arguing that he should have a kind of mechanic like a power meter or something. I was just like, well, why don't you just visually put in his cooldown so you can look at it as a bar? And I feel like that's enough because he does have a cooldown. Like it's like missing a saw on a good survivor is horrible because like that those seconds that you miss it, they can go to another tile, a nice fresh tile, and you're fucked, right? Like like it's really you do get quite punished like for missing a saw on Billy, but as it should be because he can instant down you. So I think it's a fair trade-off, but yeah, but so many killers just have no downsides. Like Freddy, just spam a bunch of pulls forehead and then
Oh my god. I snare Freddy so much.
Yeah.
And
Snare
like, there's no punishment. Like if you get outplayed past a certain point, you're gonna have Bloodlust 2 or Bloodlust 3, and like what are you gonna do against Bloodlust 3 Freddy at Shack? You know what I mean? Like nothing. Like,
Die.
And the thing about Freddy is that he's actually, like, in my opinion, he's the only killer in the game that you're as good as him day 1 as you are day 100. You don't get better at Freddy. Maybe you try to do something crazy every now and then with a gen teleport to fool people, but you didn't have to learn how to do that.
What are you saying, Toothy? Are you not denying the skill of teleporting to a generator, but then not teleporting to the generator? I am floored every time I see it. It's just the like.
What? That's so scary.
I didn't expect that. It's not like people were doing that right away on the PTB or anything.
Exactly, and that's something that people are already doing day 1. So literally, you are as good as him day 1 as you are day 100. You never get better or worse at him. You're just playing the spectator.
Yeah, because there's nothing to learn. Like at least with like the snares, like you just spam them around a loop, and oh well, the survivor's dead. Like there's no power to like get a grasp of and learn the intricacies of. I can't fucking talk. Sorry. But there's nothing to learn. It's just kind of you have everything at your disposal right away.
So what's one way that we can help address this issue of like, killers that just simply don't have a high skill cap, and who should we not let behavior touch? Like who should behavior touch instead of the ones that we want to keep?
Like
give us Billy back.
I think Hunter's fine. As someone like I know this is like a topic for a different podcast, but I'm really worried because people have said that like, oh, we're gonna do a minor touch up to Hunter's add-ons. It's like don't touch her. Like she's fine. Like it's a topic for a different thing, but Huntress in a vacuum, like her numbers and everything is like perfectly. I don't think there's too many people who could disagree with like Huntress being a very balanced, very fair killer. If anything, it's dedicated servers that they need to fix because I'm really tired of
absolutely Huntress is wonderful. Like it's like I would never have a problem with Huntress if not for the fact that you could be around the corner and die. You're like, okay, but it's not Huntress's fault. That's a thing.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like it feels really scummy when people like because I know what they saw on their screen when people are like accusing me of living in Botswana or whatever. But like it that's just kind of how it'd be, like until they upped the server tick rate. It was supposed to do something. It didn't. Surprise.
No, I mean, that's something on the killer side, I think. This is like they just need like the hit registration thing to kind of help it out, I think. And I think that's a missing piece.
Huge.
A problem I've figured out is like they've designed dedicated servers to be drastically different from like dedicated servers in pretty much any other game where it's literally killer first priority, like regardless of the situation, rather than lowest ping first.
I could be mistaken on this. There's more. I've said this to people, but like the way I understand it is like most games are like shooter sided. Does that make sense in its validation? Because like if you're playing an FPS game, it's better for your hits to feel good than it is worse to get hit, if that makes sense. But just because of the type of game that DBD is, where hits are like a huge deal, like a health state is obviously more impactful than like a chest AK shot in like Counter Strike or something. It just ends up being like when you get shooter sided, quote unquote, like that. It's just so debilitating. Like it's so like tilting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I always assumed that it was because like the game was pretty much designed peer to peer, and I still think they have like the peer to peer type of thing. Even if it is servers, they still have that peer to peer prioritization. It kind of feels like that's kind of what I thought was going on, but I actually have no idea.
I've definitely noticed it's more killer like priority over latency than anything personally from my experiences.
I feel like if both of your pings are good, like if you and the killer are both under 50 ping, it's pretty legit. Like you can go for vaults, like you can go for fast vaults, and the killer's pretty close, and you won't get hit through it. It's when the killer has like 150, 200 ping that it starts getting really, really ridiculous.
Questionable.
Yeah, to say the
Console
least.
gamers,
Like scary.
so questionable.
When they freeze in place, terrifying.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or like someone's at like the shack window and you're at one of the doors and a killer somehow hits you from there.
Oh, wait, have any of you like experienced that bug where they'll literally be on the other side of the map and you get hit? Because that's happened to me
I have had
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
too.
that has
so
happened
many
before.
times in like the last like week. Like we were in like a rancid in the building and we like healed this Fang, and then she just the second she got healed, she was hit again, and we're like, what the fuck is going on?
It was just like really insane cross map hatchet. You can clip it through solid objects if you believe hard enough.
Oh my god. It was like a Michael every time too. It was always a Michael. I don't understand.
Coincidentally enough, I also got VPN by a Michael the other day.
Oh my god.
Maybe it's the same person.
It honestly, well, mine. I was running like a short wall on Coldwind, and I thought I was gonna get hit. I like rounded the corner to vault it, and he just like walked in the corn. I was like, "What are you doing, my guy?" And he swung in the corn, and I went down. Oh, okay.
So going to
Outplayed,
changes for
honestly.
killers, I don't know if I can speak for other Legion players. I'm pretty happy with Legion right now. I don't think they need to change. I mean, like,
I think that's a very unique opinion. That's
yeah, maybe quality of life changes just because they kind of like some things feel bad without add-ons, and maybe they're add-ons, but like their kit and like how the numbers are, I think it's perfect, to be honest.
I love Legion. I mean, I'm a Babu killer, but Legion's just kind of like someone I can like pick up and have fun. I don't know. Maybe
I
Yeah.
I'm
actually
weird.
don't mind Legion all that much, like going against or playing as.
When I look
Yeah.
at Legion, a while ago I had the mindset of like every killer should end up being like, they should feel like they have a power, but like I started looking at it a little bit differently like a while ago, where it's like, well, it might be okay to have some killers that are for like, M1 players, or some killers that are better for like newer players, and I feel like what Legion needs more than anything is just, an add-on overhaul. I think their add-ons are kind of like outdated in the sense that, alright, let's take a look at Frank's mixtape. Obviously, you can't have that be too strong because then that literally destroys the game and makes people quit it. But obviously, you also can't have the case where it does nothing, so it would need a complete rework from the ground up. Or, Deep Wound Study, or, some of the other add-ons don't really get used a lot, like, I feel like, his cooldown add-ons aren't quite as effective as they could be, or in other cases, the recovery speed add-ons aren't necessarily used at all, because why would you use it? And there's certain parts of their kit that I feel like, there's like certain parts of their kit that is completely unnecessary, like, if you M1 someone, you lose part of your power charge. I feel like that's kind of
It's
really
50%.
unnecessary. Yeah. And then on top of that, you have the whole thing where it's like, with Legion, you can't see blood or scratches in your power yet. Meanwhile, you play a killer like Blight or Oni or anyone like that where they can also move fast and really bring an entire team down, yet they can still see it, so why can't Legion?
I think my main gripe with Legion is that it's just quality of life change, like fatigue, like the fact that Deathslinger, right, Deathslinger of all killers, has a shorter fatigue time on his like whenever he like changes survivor, and he gets like, a deep wound, he has a shorter fatigue than Legions.
I think it's actually the
Legion's
same
4
time.
seconds.
They're both 4 seconds, but his cooldown add-ons, or sorry, his fatigue add-ons are more effective.
Yeah, exactly.
So like he has like he has a very rare that removes 1 second from his fatigue, whereas Legion is like 0.6 at best.
Yeah. The thing about Legion about their add-ons, what I mean kind of dated, is that you know how like some killers like have like what's it called, like add-ons that change their power completely, right? Like Legion doesn't have that. Legion has one add-on that makes their power interactive, and that's the iridescent button where you break a pallet if you vault it. Every other add-on that Legion has something to do with hitting someone in feral frenzy, or it doesn't affect the feral frenzy. Like one maybe like a add-on that just like you vault a window and it's faster or something.
Yeah, I'm of the opinion, like personally, just for me, this is probably going to be controversial. I think like stat add-ons are the best kind of add-ons in my opinion, because you're basically like making a decision to like which part of your kit you want to prioritize. Like like double halved as Huntress. I'm a double halved gamer 100%, and basically what that means is that you basically get insta downs, right? So if you take that versus like the babushkas, that you're just incentivizing like getting saucier hits around corners and just readying hatchets really fast. You know what I mean? So I think there's like a lot of interplay with the like stat add-ons that you decide to use instead of just some like wacky fun add-on that ooh, look, you vault a pallet and it goes boom. Like I'm like a bigger fan of like, I guess it's like almost like a light RPG element where instead of getting
Yeah.
like an extra power, quote unquote, you get like supplements to your base kit. But this is of course like I'm just speaking about Huntress here. I don't really have that much knowledge on Legion.
Well, why not a mixture of add-ons that can be wacky and then add-ons that are just, stat boosters? That way you have some gameplay change add-ons. Like, an example of an add-on idea I had for Legion was that every time you stab someone in Feral Frenzy, you move a little bit faster, like, maybe 0.5, no, not 0.5, actually, my bad. Imagine you move 7.5% faster every time you stab someone up to a maximum of 4 times, and, it goes away if you go into fatigue, so
That
you
would
get
be
this
interesting.
ability to pressure the map, but only if you chain your hits in.
My only thought is that I think the problem with Legion is like sealing the deal. Like I think that's why he's not like a great killer, is that like yeah, you can zip around the map and injure everyone real fast, and sure you're moving real fast, but when it comes to actually like putting the dude on the floor, like you gotta play the M1 killer game.
Legion is very unique in the aspect of that they have both worlds. They have a really interesting unique power, and then they also are M1 at the exact same time.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Well, I hate to cut us away from like the killer power discussion, but what are some other changes we feel like behavior is either done right or wrong in the sense of like their sense of prioritization?
I want to just drop a big one because this is like a personal thing. Like, there's so many just like basic settings in the game. Like the amount of like again the like things that should have been prioritized in like 2017, like why do we not have fov controls, like why are there no colorblind options. I don't want to go into this too much because like I myself am not colorblind, so I don't want to like act on behalf of something I really don't fucking know anything about. But like sounds, like because as we all know, sounds are perfectly functional and never break, right guys?
Mhm.
So it's
Yep.
the most perfect thing ever. Like just like really and I was talking about like VPN shit, like people abusing lag switching. There's like really core like fundamental things that are just like the building blocks of any kind of basic multiplayer game are just not there, and they're not even acknowledging it. You know what I mean? Like, so before we anything even gets talked about, like balance or change, like the game has to just work, and like
Yeah.
they're not doing it. Like they keep putting out new chapters, they keep releasing new maps that nobody wants to fucking play on, but like the bones of the game are just like crumbling basically. Well, they're not even really there.
Yeah, so you're thinking that they could have some options for like colorblind settings, or I remember one idea someone actually brought up because like how doctors flashing cause some problems with people, right?
Yeah, like epilepsy, right?
Yeah, so there would be an option to either lower the intensity on that or to even turn it off and give you like a new indication instead, because like that shit can suck for some people. I mean, I can't really speak for them, so I'm not gonna pretend I know what it's like. But what I will say is that it would really help to be mindful of them, because like there was a time where like they did that one change to Doctor where like it just made your entire screen flash white.
Oh yeah, well when you used to get flashlight blinded, it was like a straight up fucking like your eyes were fucked. Like it was
Oh god, yeah, that was awful.
Did you put on the Insta
Oh,
blind and then
better
like
now.
you show your friend like for the first time just how terrible it is to be Insta blind? Like I remember like I put a friend on Kill Your Friends, so I was like, alright, so you wanna know how fast an Insta blind is? And they hated it immediately because like, wow, how is this something that's like, functioning like this?
well even like and just to go back to the previous point about like toggleable options, like Tinker, just as a perfect example, like that's a really cool perk. I'd really like to use Tinker as Hunters because it interacts in really interesting ways with your lullaby, because you can like run up to a gen with your lullaby going and like you don't have a terror radius, and it's like and it just allows for gen controlling cool shit. But like any Hunters player will tell you, like long range hatchets are like a big part of her kit. And you know what you can't do? Get a long range hatchet through this big ass stupid bubble that comes up on your screen and stays there for like 5 seconds and completely blocks like all vision on the generator. Like, why can't you toggle that? Like, why can't I turn that to just be like a sound notification? So when somebody gets unhooked, I can like see the unhooker across the map and actually like throw a hatchet at them and like read their jukes. You know what I mean? Just a basic thing, like a literal, like somebody could program that in an afternoon, just like disable this visual effect, and they just don't.
Well,
Like,
no, I thought that was purposeful though, because I actually remember specifically them talking about that. Like, I mean, I agree, but like for many reasons, it would be good to see not to be able to see through that black bubble. But I thought that was intentional.
that's, if it is intentional, then it's fucking stupid and needs to change. Like, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be so blunt, but like that's so dumb that like like that one side just gets an advantage in this situation because of something that I have no control over. And like again, it because it only affects one killer really at the end of the day. Like they probably just
Well, I
don't
mean,
give.
there's also another part of it where like I can't remember if this still applies for survivors, but like, the bubbles will also block your vision as survivor. I mean, this I can't really remember too well because I can't remember the last time I had a killer walking from the direction of a pop generator, but I remember this one time it just blocked my vision. I had no idea the killer was coming because like, they had like some kind of a perk that hid their terror radius, and then I just died because I had no idea they're coming from that direction because I legitimately couldn't see them.
Oh yeah, huge. It works, like it works in the other direction too. Like for Hunter's hatchets, like if you hook somebody, obviously you get the bubble of the person screaming. You can like if you're saucy, you can stand in that bubble and ready a hatchet, and there'll be people right next to you, and they can't fucking see you readying a hatchet. And maybe like 30% of the time you don't make a sound when you raise the hatchet because, as I mentioned, sounds are perfect and never break ever. Yeah, it's just a really stupid mechanic, and it's something you wouldn't think of. But like when you start playing this, like when you start putting the hours in this game, and you've been through a lot of matches, like shit like that is kind of a big deal, like getting a cross map on somebody and being able to get a 2-man slug is like a game changing thing. And like every game basically, like I have to just guess based around this like stupid bubble that I can't toggle.
Yeah, absolutely, and like it's just you'd think they would end up working on that. And like, and I know another thing that a lot of people have been wanting is like an FOV slider where I don't think it should be anything too insane, but I think it's basically proven at this point that Shadowborn 3 doesn't really have that much of a game-changing aspect to it. It's just really nice to have. So I
Like
feel
is anyone else here a Shadowborn gamer, or am I going to speak on behalf of all the Shadowborn?
I have purposely avoided Shadowborn because I don't want to be a Shadowborn crackhead.
same.
Yeah,
So,
same.
like,
This is my deal. Like I've been playing like old first-person shooter games since I like could walk, like Quake, like old games like that. And a really big part of those old games is that they have really, really high FOVs because they're really fast-paced. And just so like when I play without Shadowborn, it just feels so debilitating. Like just the way I don't mean to sound really edgy, but the way you like center targets and just think about aiming like a projectile killer like Huntress, and just the way I judge like vertical distance for throwing a hatchet, like it just feels right with Shadowborn. And like most people who played Huntress for hundreds of hours will say that it doesn't feel right with Shadowborn, but like I'm kind of unique in the games I played before DBD, right? So again, like this preferential thing that just has to do with the games I played before, and my preference as a player means that I have to play every game with 3 perks.
Like I
Which
feel
like
as if they should have an FOV slider that goes between 85 to 110 degrees, right?
exactly, no, exactly. Like I'm
Because
not saying
85
like
is like 2 below their current one, which I think is 87.
mhm. No, like I understand like how debilitating it would be if you could play with like 180 FOV and like you can just see everything all the time. Like that would be really bad. But just like have a frame, like having just like like a low point and a high point, and just letting you slide it, and then making Shadowborn like an information perk. Like I just don't see why that's a problem. Like I don't see why. Like again, like every game, like Quake came out in 1996. I could boot that game up right now and go in the console and just like through the FOV app and like move it around however I want it. And like DBD was released 4 years ago, and they keep patching it, they keep updating it, but these like basic things that people have been asking for are just like not there.
It's interesting. I mean, I'm one of the few people that uses Shadowborn a lot on a lot of killers actually, and I don't know when I started using it, but all I know is that I legit can't unequip it sometimes.
Well,
It just feels bad.
it's just that's exactly how I feel. Like I played.
Like I don't need Shadowborn. I can literally like never use it again in my life. It just feels bad though.
I mean, if you're playing mostly Legion though, like when you're like M1ing, like the amount of benefit, like I'm sure you could agree, like a killer like Nurse or Huntress.
Oh,
like,
the reason why I use Shadowborn specifically on Legion is because when you vault a window with your power, people try to run behind you so you can see to the left of you. Or when you end your fatigue, you can like it zooms in, so when you have a wider FOV, you can see more around you in fatigue.
Okay, so there are so exactly, like there are benefits, and that's just like a like a basic thing that you shouldn't have to sacrifice a perk slot for, like.
But the benefits at the end of the day is like, it's not something you would warrant in running a perk for. It's just simply a nice benefit. It's something that doesn't change the outcome of the game. It's just really nice.
Yeah, it's like a benefit of having like a functioning game, Like.
I mean, I'll be honest. I have to imagine like that might be I mean, maybe it's not an intentional decision. I have no idea, but I mean, it'd be interesting. I mean, I guess it'd be interesting to ask them because, like, I mean, I know people have talked about that for a long time. I mean, I feel like that might have been something that maybe they weighed and decided not to do. Who knows? Like, I would be curious to see what they had to say about that.
I'm sure they would probably say something along the lines of like, if the FOV is too high, it makes stealth too hard. But like, oh no, we're gonna nerf stealth and Dead by Daylight. What will the blended will never recover? Yeah, exactly.
Good riddance.
I feel like the one thing that might scare them is killers like Nerf, where like there is a little bit more of a benefit, but it's for like specific killers where it's like you see him more in a time where you're supposed to be blind. But I do feel as if they could probably make some kind of a change where, again, this would take like animation work, but they could just change the way that you look when you're in a fatigued state.
But why is that detrimental? Like that's part of playing Nurse. Like anyone who's played Nurse for more than 2 hours knows that like when you're in fatigue, like that's not like I mean, I guess if you're streaming, you just check chat or whatever. But like if you're actually sweating and playing Wind, you like look around. That like when you're in fatigue, and like I don't think that's. Oh no, the Nurse was in fatigue and she saw me holding W on her. This game is broken. FOV, revert FOV. Like that just doesn't strike me as something that's broken. It just strikes me as something that if you have like 85 FOV and your Nurse is like looking at your ankles or whatever, it's like, why can't I fucking see this person running away from me? It's so frustrating.
There's never been a time where I've gotten to the end screen as a survivor main where I'm like, God damn it, they had Shadowborn. Like I'm just happy they're not like running something else. I'm like, they're running Shadowborn, not fucking like Undying or something like that. Like I don't care. So yeah, there's just never been a time where I'm like, oh, that's why they got me.
Ah, damn, Shadowborn. If it weren't for Shadowborn, I would have gotten the 4 out. I would have used my Unbreakable.
Yeah.
Oh man, Shadowborn, why?
Corner tech gamers will say that Shadowborn is OP, but really,
no, I'm a corner tech gamer. I don't care. That's like my only trick. I'm a one-trick pony. It's corner tech.
Yeah,
I've seen some things. But as an ending, like just an ending kind of on the whole thing, it's just like I think a priority should be these like like fundamental things about the game functioning.
Quality of life fixes.
Exactly. Like everyone's been complaining about it for so long, and it's like there's just so many things in the game. You lose so many games because like you hit somebody. Like okay, show of hands, how many people have lost like at least 2 to 5% of your games because like you can't hear a slug, like like somebody's on the ground and you need to hook them to like get barbecue to like whatever, and they're just.
I don't. I usually never slug, so I couldn't relate to that one.
I mean,
I definitely have lost slugs, but I don't know if it's because of the bug. I think it's because I definitely got caught up in some chase, and then they're gone, and God knows where. I used to
They
live myself in those
army crawled
situations.
out of there.
See, when I play killer on my free time, I actually listen to music really loudly, so I don't rely on sound at all.
So the
Okay,
thing
yeah.
about me is that I have a very pressure heavy style where like, I slug a lot. Like that's just something I do because it allows me to have more chases in the game. Or, on the other hand, it also has the possibility to end the game, but
I
normally
mean,
I like to
you could just say you're an Oni main. That kind of.
Yeah, I main Oni. Hello.
Honestly, yeah, exactly. That's kind of how he rolls, yeah.
Yeah, so he slugs a lot, and the thing about it is that I don't think I've lost a game because I couldn't hear a slug, but what I will say is that I've definitely created scenarios where it's like, wow, this must be boring for both of us because I can't find the slug because they're not making any sound. So because of that, we'll be just
They
waiting
die
for
from
4 minutes.
bleed
Exactly.
out.
So
Yeah,
we'll wait 4 minutes instead of ending the game off immediately, or hell, sometimes I'll recognize someone's a good player. I'm like, hey, you know what? I want to give this person hatch, and then I just don't hear them on the ground, so I lose them, and they bleed out when I wanted to give them hatch. It's like, come on, I don't want to have this issue where I wait 4 minutes for them to bleed out.
Oh no, I've done that before too, but I don't know. I guess I never thought. I mean, like, there is a sound bug, but I don't know. I think most of the time when that happens to me, it literally is because I lost them. Like, I literally lost them. I don't remember. I mean, then I guess how would I know though if I walked by them I couldn't hear? I guess I wouldn't know honestly.
Sometimes it's just not your fault. Sometimes you just legitimately don't hear the slug, and so then you start second guessing, like, oh, were they actually here? And you start second guessing it.
Well, that was the other thing I was gonna say. It's like I'm literally having to make like gameplay decisions based around, is the game working right now? Like literally, it's like did this guy crawl away or is he right beside me? Like okay, if I slug somebody, go down somebody else, go back to my first slug, and I stand where I slugged him and I can't hear him. Assuming everything is working, you should just be like, oh, he moved, he crawled away, he went somewhere, right? But like every time that happens, you have to as the killer, be like, there's a chance that he's right beside me and he's just not making any sound. So like it's just the like I guess it's not like game losing, but it's just very like the fact that you're having to account for the game not functioning is just incredibly frustrating.
Yeah, I agree. Like, it can just create these scenarios where it's like, it should have gone one way, but then it just didn't at all.
No, 100%.
I definitely haven't had like sound issues, but I can't tell you the amount of times I've played killer and I just don't want to because I get false saws or I get false grabs.
Yeah.
And like stuff like that. I don't want a new chapter. I want them to fix it.
Oh,
But
the grabs I completely agree with. I will say the false saws though, I get them so infrequently now. I'm crying. Like I used to get like couple like every time I boot the game, right? Get a few a day, and I don't get a few a day. It's more like a few every few days, and that's nice. Like I mean, I know it's not perfect, but it's way better than it used to be. I will say that for sure.
Yeah, I remember I was
frustrating
watching.
because I don't play killer and I get them still.
I
like
remember
when
I was.
play.
Oh, sorry, I didn't want to interrupt.
Oh, you're fine.
I remember I was watching Scott one day, and like he was playing Billy on like I think it was Grim Pantry, right? This is before the Grim Pantry update, and so he was just playing Billy, and like he just got like a false saw like 10 times in a row, and it's like, all right, I'm not playing anymore. Yeah. And it's like I understand now because like that's how bad it used to be. Luckily, they actually fixed it though.
I 100% have lost games because of false saws. Absolutely. Or you lose like a ton of pressure because of a mistimed false saw. Like it's yeah, absolutely. Like I definitely agree with that. I mean, I just feel like they've done something to make it substantially better at some point because it's noticeably better.
Oh yeah, it's not as bad. Like maybe it happens once every second or third game or so, but at that point, like it's a lot rarer than what it used to be. But I will say that's pretty much as far as I'll go. It's not as common, and I'm glad for that being the case. But
it's still frustrating when it does.
Exactly.
I mean, yeah, getting denied hits again is like really.
I think the grabs are worse though. Like
yes,
that's 100%. Way more frustrating.
When I first started playing this game, I was a pig main, and yeah, like you know how many times you see them start and then they just run away right in your face and you hit them like because the grab animation cancels into an auto. It's very. And then at the same time, everyone's had the thing where you're trying to save someone from the basement and you're getting face camped and you like tap mouse 1 and the guy grabs you instantly. Like,
oh hell yeah!
Yes, even like if you let go, somehow they still grabbed you. Pain.
It's again, it's not a case like situations like that. It's not a case of like, okay, can I like outplay this guy and like bait him and get the full hook off? It's literally just like, come on, Matthew Cote, my prayers go out to you. Function, teamwork, please.
There's also a lot of times with the grabs that I've been running head on a lot recently, just because I'm trying to have fun, and there's been a couple of times where either me or my duo has like we jump out at the same time the killer tries to grab us out, and like the game breaks, like absolutely fucking breaks. Where like if the killer vaults, we vault. I don't know if any of you have had that bug.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, actually,
Yep.
like whatever the killer does, you do, and it just completely breaks the game because
so
of that one thing.
That's so funny. Actually, I was literally playing like 3 hours ago, and that happened to a buddy of mine. That's the first time I had ever seen it, but no, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
It's a weird bug. It's like maybe Zimnex remembers this too, but that bug was there like many
Yeah,
years ago.
that shit's
That's a
OG.
2017 resurrected bug. And I'm just like, how did this come back? I haven't seen this in years. Like when I first saw something happen, it happened to somebody. I was like, oh, this is like
They
I remember
changed.
when I was a Batman survivor and I used to see this. Like
Yeah, like legit. It feels like one line of code change, just flip the switch and it's just it's back.
Yeah.
Like, we're seeing all these other wacky bugs resurfacing, but you know what's the one bug that we should really have back? Space Billy, please.
Yes.
Yes.
I miss Space
Why did they
Billy.
remove
hands,
that?
bro.
Make everything fun.
Why did they remove that? It was so good.
We just circle back to the Billy.
Yeah, pretty much. That's just
why
DBD.
gotta do
Come
this?
back.
It's the Billy. It's the
It
Billy
always
card.
circles.
I will talk about Billy the whole podcast, no problem.
Oh, I will do.
How easy.
I
Let's
just need to
do
make a
Billy
podcast. You know what? I'm down. Like, I want to do a podcast for Huntress, for Billy. Let's do it. So,
Billy talk about
No
Billy all
Legion,
day.
I'm out, bro.
we'll do Legion at some point. Just, we just won't do Pyramid Head, though, okay?
Or
Yeah.
Deathslinger.
I mean, we're talking about priorities and shit talking killers. I thought this was the Deathslinger podcast.
Although, one thing I should probably ask is, like, we've kind of gone over what we think behavior should go into next, and, like, an example of a priority they had that wasn't so great. Now, what's a recent example of something you would say they actually had some good priorities on? Like, you could say, wow, that was actually coming in at a good time. Is there an example of that recently?
I will credit. Sorry, this is just real quick. So again, like I think I mentioned this earlier, but when Billy was first in PTP and his overheat mechanic was ridiculous, they did roll it back, and I will give them credit for that. They did actually like listen to the community and say like, okay, this is overkill. We need to pull this back a little bit. So I will give them credit for that.
Any other examples?
No.
Silence.
Yeah, honestly, I'm not gonna lie. I was like thinking about it, and the only thing I could ever think about was when they made it so you didn't have to remake your Swift lobbies, and that was it. that
Even
was all I could
that,
think
that
of, and that
breaks-
breaks, and that
That breaks so often.
It does, but it's nothing like having
Yeah,
to
it's
remake your entire
yeah,
lobby.
it's
You
much
can't even
much
compare.
better.
Well, yeah,
Like,
it's
not
definitely
comparable.
better.
An unknown
but
error
it's not
has occurred,
perfect.
by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I had a buddy of ours of Toothies and Eyes. He literally didn't collect blood points for like 8 months, and he didn't rank up because he would just get kicked out of every lobby at the end, and he couldn't see post game chat or anything.
Pain.
Indeed.
Yeah, I had that for a little bit.
One quality of life change I would love to see is like any instance of Clown, for example, like his bottles create so much motion sickness. And for me, that's just really, it just makes me so dizzy. And I have vertigo too, so that just makes it like tremendously worse.
Yeah, I just think it's a bad mechanic, to be honest. On the topic of like killers that are stupid, I think Clown is just like is the ultimate combination of being really bad and also really unfun to play against.
Yeah.
I think my problem with like Deathslinger and Clown is that like, yeah, they're not good. Like Deathslinger is really annoying to play against, and like he may get some really like unfun cheap shots on you, or like quick scope just insta gets you. But most of the time he does like I don't even die to Deathslinger that much. Like I usually get out a lot, which is why it's so bad.
Yeah, I mean it's like the ultimate combination of like this like low skill cap unfun killer like Clown and Deathslinger. and you don't even really get the reward in the way that like Nurse or Huntress or like these killers who have insane slugging potential can win. You can win games against like really good survivors. You kind of like if you just like, I hate using this word, but if you just, okay, I'm going to say, if you prioritize generators, we're not going to use the word gen rush, you can beat like any clown, any deathslinger, because they just can't end chases fast enough and hook people to apply enough pressure to win the game. And yes, I completely agree that Clown's Gas is really stupid. Like any game mechanic that focuses on just like, putting blinders over your eyes and slowing you to a crawl, it's just not fun. It's just not.
I mean, for me, it ain't so much the blinding part. It's literally the fact that it makes you literally dizzy.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that is very fair.
Yeah, I know a
I've
lot of
had
people.
moments where I went against Clown before, and I just had to just lay my head down on my desk because I just felt sick.
Yeah, I know a lot of people who get like full blown headaches against Clown, and I don't understand why something like that would be in the game. Because like, what are you gonna tell those people who like can't play against a killer because it gives them a headache? Like, oh well, just deal with it. Like maybe you shouldn't have this in your game.
No,
And
100%.
this is actually really interesting because it's actually going to go into one of our later topics as well with the DC penalties. Because like like I won't dive into it too much, but like there's some people who legitimately get sick against certain killers. It's like, well, you can't really expect them to play through that because they're gonna end up having to, who knows what, depending on the severity of it. Like in the case of like epilepsy with Doctor, you could end up sending someone to the hospital if you force them to play through that.
Oh, that was really
Yeah.
bad.
It's like you have to choose between like toughing it
Yeah.
out or sitting through a 5-minute penalty. And it's just like, what are you going to tell these people? Like, oh, just don't play my game. It's like, but most of your killers you were fine against. It's just
Yeah,
those
it's
like
just this one or
specific
two
killers.
killers.
So like telling them as a whole, someone with some sort of like disability that they can't play the game at all because of one killer is triggering to like their specific disability or a couple of killers is really not the play.
It's such a simple fix too. At the end of the day, like it's not like you have to go and gut Doctor and do all this shit. It's literally just like stop the static effect from coming up on your screen. Like
Yeah.
why is that like like when a fake like when you find a fake palette, how you get that little shock thing, like they just make the palette go in. Like why does that need to like, and it's this recurring trend of things. It's been like months and months and years of these like simple changes that someone could do in a like just instantly, just like flip a switch, you're fine. Put
Yeah.
something in the main menu, and they just don't, and they just pretend that there's no problem.
Yeah, or even like color blindness, like
That is a whole.
like that I don't feel like, I mean, I don't know much about like making a video game and all that, but it doesn't seem like it's rocket science or anything, especially a team that really loves to pride itself on how diverse its characters are. You're not really looking out for the diversity of your player base if you're not making this game accessible to people who are colorblind or have another sort of like disability. It's like where's the translation between the diversity in your game to the people that are playing your game?
Yeah.
It's
I
because
mean,
it's because it takes 2 seconds to make a Twitter post saying that you stand with people of different identities and shit like that, and it's
cool they're
actually,
adding a bunch of different characters and all that, but
but
there's a
when
difference between saying you do something and actually doing it.
exactly, because actually doing it takes like effort and time.
Sure,
which
they added a bunch of diverse killers from all over the world, and same with survivors. It's cool. They're different. Everyone's country, but like for the actual players playing these characters they're trying to identify with, it's a little bit hard.
Yeah, huge.
Yeah, it also makes the diversity in the game feel very surface level. It kind of makes it feel like, oh, is it this just for like show so you can say you're diverse?
Well,
And then you don't translate it to the people who are actually playing your
Which
game.
is so
It's like, so
funny.
how deep does that want for diversity run?
Yeah, which is so funny because like I know for a fact like behavior's shown that they can change hook auras. They've made like for the you remember for like the 2017 BBQ event, they made the hooks blue.
Yeah.
It's literally not that hard, and they can just make it a setting. Like it's like I don't understand. Like if it's such a problem where they can't do it, maybe they should take time. Like instead of making new killers, they should probably like rework the foundation of their games so they can do things like that.
What
Yeah.
I think it comes down to is the pragmatic, just the cold hard reality that they don't make money when they don't release new killers. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, sure, they make money. Like, people buy the game, people buy cosmetics or whatever. But new chapters is how they generate revenue.
Which is how they
And
can keep the game going as well.
exactly. So it's like I just can't help but feel that it's gonna rise to a crest at some point. Like, eventually, like, something is along the lines of old Legion is gonna happen, and like a big part of the community are just gonna say like enough is enough. Like,
Pyramid Head is a thing, you know.
yeah, it was pretty. I mean, like, well, like, fuck, man, like they released Pyramid Head and Midwich on the same update. It was pretty, yeah, like it's kind of, when, like, okay, when I'm gonna survive with friends, and one of the only times I'm happy is when we're playing a killer that was released 4 years ago. We're playing against a killer that was released 4 years ago on a map that was designed 4 years ago. It doesn't really bode well for your track record with your game. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Of course, so you know, there is definitely this need for accessibility to be part of a priority that they should work on.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else you would like to add on to this?
I have one on the just priorities. I feel like this could be a whole other conversation, like the map redesigns. Like, I think it's cool
Yeah.
that they're like doing that, but at the same time, like, I feel like the real veterans, like Auto Haven is this ugly green mess, but it's beautiful because it's actually like fun and there's like cool things to do on it. Like, I wish they would address actual gameplay things with these maps, like, like Azerov's is so killer sided, it's ridiculous. If you want to, you can win any game on that map with one hook, and just, you know what I mean. And like the new Azerov's update, what did they do? They completely removed all gameplay from the 4 vault thing, and they just put a breakable wall in it. Like, it's literally it's a pre-drop pallet. It's like the person vaults the window, you break the wall, that window sucks now. Like, that's it. That's the interaction. Whereas before,
Breakable walls are just bad in general.
yeah, so yeah,
Yes.
they need to go. It's been too long. Like, they were bad on Dead Dog Saloon. They were bad on the McMillan rework. They're bad on Yamaoka. They're bad on Bad and Preschool. The only good breakable walls on Bad and Preschools preschool, excuse me, are the walls that you never kick. So why isn't it just a fucking wall? Like, you know what I mean? Why isn't it just like a closed off wall?
Yeah.
And it's
why
like
isn't it?
it's a brain dead mechanic that takes like it has no thought into it whatsoever. Like, people have been saying it for so long, but if it was literally the opposite. If it was a buildable wall, there would actually be some, again, it ups the interaction level, because all of a sudden, instead of just sitting on gens, it's like, oh, I'm running, we were playing on Badham, it's like, oh, I'm running the killer on the ambulance. I'm gonna run to House of Pain. Can somebody go build the wall so I can get like the safer vault? And then you have to pull someone off to like build the wall. And then as killer, when you see the breakable wall, you're like, oh, somebody did this. Like somebody didn't do gens and did this instead. So I do take a loss here, but it's not like, like the vaults on the 2-story house in Badham, where if they vault that window at the one side, like, you have to kick that wall. Like, that's the entire interaction.
Like, another big thing is that, I feel like a lot of people aren't looking at how the maps look, but rather how they play. Like, you could just have a map that is just, an empty monocolored space, but if it plays really well, I'm going to be looking at the way the game plays out. Now, granted, visuals will drag in new players, which is great, but you also need to make sure that everybody who's staying with the game really likes the gameplay that they're going through.
It has to deliver. Like, the maps have to be like, at the end of the day, it's like you can make the most visually appealing thing in the world, but like, how does it play? Like, what are the engagements? Like, we were talking about Bad and Preschool. Like, that map literally almost made me quit playing fucking DBD, because it's
Like,
just
why did they put breakable walls in the preschool itself?
because that loop was
Same
too
for
strong.
Yamoka.
Because that loop was too strong. Like, I'm glad they nerfed that. Like, the fence loop where you could just like run, you could vault the fence and then just keep running through the side. That was too strong. That needed
I was
to go.
busted.
You might mean the
That was
second one
so-
on the other side of it, where
But in my opinion, though, I think like you should just learn when to drop a chase. You shouldn't be able to win every single chase as a killer.
See, I don't think that justifies having like really stupid, busted map design. Like that's not fun for the survivor. Like don't like it's oh dude, it's so fun. I vault the fence and then I run back in and then I vault the fence again, dude.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, like I think when it comes to the bad ham fence, it's like, you know, that one was actually way too strong because like I feel like if you lose a chase with the killer, it should be because the killer realized, okay, this guy is actually really good in the chase, so because of that, I should
And you
drop the
should-
chase.
I gotta go find the weak link. It's not just this guy's running the strong loops because I go fuck
Exactly,
along.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like you need to like come out on top in interactions. Like that's the big thing. Like there's no interaction on that loop whatsoever. Like it's like, again, it's literally they vault the window, you run around, they keep vaulting it over and over again. Whereas like a long wall jungle gym is a very strong tile. Like that is like you can like against good survivors, that shit is like really, really powerful. But there's interaction, you know what I mean? Like you can fuck with your red light, you can double back at certain points, you can like fake doubling back at certain points, you can be unpredictable. Whereas like with the Batum, with that loop, and basically just Batum preschool as a whole, still there's no interaction at any of the loops. It's literally like, does this guy know that if he vaults this window here, like I there's nothing I can do, and I have to just like run him down. You know, like it's basically just like a knowledge check. Like you're just passing a skill check.
Yeah, basically.
Pretty much, yeah. Are we all happy with this so far? Because I do know we were going on about like, you know, priorities for about a good hour and 10 minutes now.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy.
Yeah,
We
we're
can get
good.
going if you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so next I want to go over is the bloodlust experiment. So, for anybody who doesn't know, Behavior had this time period where they disabled bloodlust during the weekend, and so there was a little bit of an uproar on like, you know, certain platforms like the forums, which admittedly I think, you know, people overreacted to it big time. But how do we all feel about the bloodlust experiment?
That
I
was
personally-
awesome.
Yeah,
That was
think
pretty
it's
good actually. I
great.
enjoyed that.
It was good. It
Had
was
fun.
I think it's healthy.
I think it's good. I'm glad they're experimenting. Like I'm really glad they're like, you know, like seeing what does or doesn't work, and like, you know, they're playing with stuff, they're disabling things, they're, you know, doing things like that. But my fear is I'm assuming you guys know about the stats thing they did with objective obsession, where a dev said that like, well, if you bring objective obsession, you tend not to survive. So I feel like it's a pretty balanced perk, like just based on stats. But anyone who knows, fucking boosted as killer mains, it's if you have objective obsession, you're gonna get tunneled out of the game, and the killer loses.
Oh
because
well,
there's
the
one-
data says.
Exactly, right. So my fear
Wait,
is
well,
they're-
why did the killer lose in that situation? I mean, wait, I'm confused about that part. Like, I get the point about object, but and I definitely, I mean, I myself, I get super distracted by object, and so it definitely will kind of distract me.
Like when we foreman, like the guys that I foreman with, the guy I know who runs object, like he's easily the strongest survivor out of the bunch of us. Like it's not even a question. So people will go for him on Ormond with these insane setups. And like, sure, he'll die because he'll like eventually they'll be able to bloodless him and get the pallet or whatever. But we do all the gens and leave, so the killer's still deep hips. But if you look at the stats, it's like, well, he had object and he died. Therefore, you know, like object isn't a broken perk. But like, I'm not saying this happens every game, but you know, it can be to the point where if you get a coordinated four man, some dude can be on with sitting with object, calling out your entire like everything you do. Like it can be like, okay, she just flipped the red light around, so just keep running. Like don't double back. Okay, she's faking the window vault, so just keep going around. Like you can just do that, and there's literally nothing you can do about it.
She's being a crackhead, hold W.
Yeah, exactly. But my point, like what I was gonna say is, I really hope with this bloodlust experiment we don't get the stats readout. It's like, well, you know, we disabled bloodlust, and low rank killers performed more poorly, so we're adding new and improved bloodlust 6. If you get in a chase for a minute and a half, the survivor will just lose a health state instantly. Like, I'm just worried that they'll they'll just read the statistics, make a decision based on that, and they not think about like potential, like what does bloodlust inspire killers to do, and like what did it do? It did remove infinites, but since most of those infinites are gone, what it means is that you get these boosted ass fucking rank 10 people who will run you around the safest palette in the universe for like 3 minutes while all the gens pop, and like they're moving at Mach 8, and then like someone will come and they'll leave the loop and they're moving at 130. Like good luck doing anything with that when you're not
Yeah.
at a rally, you know what I mean? Like,
Okay, and you remember when Bloodlust was first added, right? I mean, it made
You know, I
sense.
do, but like honestly, I was such a babu back then. Like I can't even say that I can remember. Be like, oh my god, yeah, I remember when I used to fight it. Please, I like was a whole W gamer. I had no idea what
Nah.
it was back then.
Yeah,
So like,
not
I
like
can't even
legit. In like
comment.
2016, I was like a monkey on a typewriter type thing, like legit. Um, I don't know how to explain. When they first introduced Bloodlust, it made perfect sense, right? Like you had like strong windows, like just any Colden map basically had like so many. This was back, by the way, when jungle gyms had 2 pallets at it, so 2 pallets in a jungle gym, so 2 windows, 2 pallets. And like it made perfect sense why Bloodlust is in the game then for like Trapper or Wraith. Billy didn't need it, obviously. Billy could still 4K perfectly fine. But as the game progressed and we got more killers and the map started going down, like the way that Bloodlust is right now, it makes no sense. There's literally like 5 loops in the entire game where Bloodlust 2 maybe makes sense. Like you only need 1 if
And
that.
those loops shouldn't exist to begin
Yeah.
with.
Yeah,
It's not
exactly.
a bloodlust thing.
I mean, it
Like,
went from like I said, it went from 2 windows, 2 pallets every loop to we have like the fucking bad ham car
like
at the beginning.
the
Like,
one
Yeah.
example of a time where I think bloodlust is like needed basically is like Disturbed Ward. Like that window at the bottom of the stairs that is like the freest shit in the fucking world. Like
Yeah.
like that is an example where like you might actually end up getting Bloodlust 2 or Bloodlust 3 if you decide to chase there. But being a good killer, you just
Yeah, just
don't.
leave. Like, just
But that's like I don't like that's not an engaging interaction, and that has nothing to do with bloodlust. It's like when you as a killer are like, this survivor is in this insane setup, I can't touch him. Like that doesn't bode well for the game. And I'm not saying that like strong structures shouldn't exist, but there should always be an element with the killer you're playing of like, I can do something here to try to fuck him up. You know what I mean?
I don't know, man. Like 'cause for me, it's hard with the Asylum because, like, right, like Asylum has been like it's so much. Like, I guess I have like strong memories of old Asylum, and for me, current Asylum just feels like nothing compared
But
to that.
I
Like,
mean, in comparison, no. But that window still shouldn't exist. Like, do we all know the window I'm talking about?
Yeah.
By the way,
The one in the
Yeah.
green room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and then there's also the one at like the bottom of the stairs too.
It has
like,
2. It has 2 really
so
strong
those 2
windows.
are like completely like unacceptable basically. Like there's no actual gameplay taking place in a game. Like a long wall, perfect example. Like a long wall is really strong. You can go on that shit for a while, but the killer can double back on you, and if you're not paying attention, they'll get you. Or they can do funky red light shit and figure out. There's no interaction. It's just vaulting that window over and over and over and over and over again. Or getting like the double windows on Father Campbell's. Like, no way like should that ever be open, because you're denying interaction, which is the most fun part of DBD. Is like, oh, the guy did this, I'm gonna do this. Oh, the guy did this, I'm gonna do this. There's no that. It's like House of Pain, Haddonfield, perfect example, or Funhouse, the Haddonfield house. You vault on the porch, you wait till they vault, you run, you vault the window next to basement, they vault that or double back, you go around, you go back up to the lake. That's non-gameplay, dude. It's like,
So here's my question then. What would be the most balanced example? So like, if we're talking about making sure that Bloodlust does not make its way back in, then what would be the best example of a main building on a map?
mm,
Thompson House.
yeah, actually,
Yeah, yeah.
honestly,
oh, current Thompson House is good, very good.
Yeah.
I think like just main buildings in general are kind of bad, but I think Thompson House is about as close as you can get, because it's weak, but there's also like there's things you can do. You can like sneak around the killer.
It's
you
weak
can,
in a good way.
exactly, yeah. You can like slow vault in like into the room with the hole, and then try to like get by them that way, and then make it to a pallet, or like if you have balance landing, obviously you're fine, or like vault out onto the stairs and then try to get to the pallet in front that way. There's engagement, and it all has to do with like getting out of the building basically.
It's one main structure that I like. I hate the rest of the map, but it's like the one part of the map that I kind of like, and I'll explain why. It's the shrine on Sanctum of Wrath, and I hate the rest of the map, but I like the main building because of the fact that it's not really a loop, it's a vantage point, so it adds to the gameplay in the sense that you can go to this one area of the map to understand where everybody else is at as either a survivor or a killer. So, you can get, like, good map information by just going up there. Yet, it's not the place you go if you want to really live as a survivor, or, you really want to go to chase as a killer, because the windows are just kind of, they're kind of okay. and the palettes just straight up suck. But
Mhm.
I feel like it adds to the gameplay because you have this vantage point, so it kind of adds on to the gameplay rather than just taking away from it in the sense that you have to drop the chase if you go there. You don't. It's just kind of nice, and also if you slow vault to the survivor, you don't make any sounds because you're sliding as opposed to falling.
Mhm. No, that I would tend to agree with that. I don't like Sanctum of Wrath, excuse me, but I think that structure is pretty fair. Like the stuff around it, that's a different conversation. But just the structure itself, I think I think that's both sides.
Yeah, so one thing I will say is, like, how has Bloodlust affected our games? I know that for me, when I was playing during the Bloodlust experiment, I feel like my games didn't change at all. Like, I felt like I had the same exact results, and, like, the games that I would lose, which were, like, the minority of matches, were only because the survivors were good and they would have won, whether or not the mechanic even existed in the first place. Or, they had a key, but we don't talk about keys.
Yeah, so I will say I play all Survivor that Bloodlust weekend, and I lived so much more than I usually live, like way more. Like I was like I had like a 5-gen chase one game, I had like another days where I outran a killer with no ad. Like it was hilarious. It's like he was so mad at me because of flashlight save. He didn't hit anybody else, so nobody realized he had no ad until like he hit somebody else behind me out the game.
Oh, was that the one thing you had on your? It was like a clip that you had.
Yeah. Personal Twitter. It was like a 2-minute chase, and this man, everybody was trying to take hits so I could
At the very end, they got slapped, but no Ed.
Yeah, and we're like, what? Why did you hit like all these other people in front of you? Like, but it felt good. I felt like, oh my god, my skill and knowledge at this game actually fucking matters now. Like, it matters that I know what to do in this game, and I'm not gonna get caught, have some Mack truck run me over later, like because I was
Yeah.
I was in the game, I was in the chase too long. Like, it was awesome. Like, I definitely got face camped a lot, but it was really good. Like, I feel like that's some of the most fun I've had in DBD in a very long time. Well, other than the PTB was also extremely fun, but it was some of the most fun I've had in the live DVD in years,
Yeah.
easily.
I agree.
I can agree.
Yeah.
Like, for me, it felt nice knowing that not having Bloodlust did not change my games at all, because it gave me that
Yeah.
reassurance where it's like, hey, you don't actually need this. Like, granted, if they kept them Bloodlust 1, I wouldn't really care, because, alright, sometimes some maps can spawn some ridiculous setups, but, like, to know that, they could get rid of Bloodlust 2 and 3 easily, and it wouldn't cause any problems, was great.
Oh yeah, huge. I think literally the only time Bloodlust 2 or 3 does anything is when you're getting BM'd. That's really what it comes down to.
Like, when it comes to Bloodlust, you're pretty much, if you ever make it to Bloodlust 3, for instance, the only reason why that ever happens is because you're going around the same palette for 45 seconds straight, and it's like,
In
Which,
what world do you think? Oh yes, I definitely deserve to kill them now.
Exactly.
But it's so funny too, because I guess mentally I'm so used to being like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, I got too greedy here, whatever. But now you don't have that. It's like the killer fucked up, they made a dumb decision, they pay for it. That's how the game should be. Like, that's
100%.
literally how the game should be.
No, completely. It's basically, yeah, it's like a band-aid, right? It's like your chase has been going on long enough, you deserve an extra edge. We're like, no, anybody, as Survivor, I really value long chases. I think that's, when you loop a man on TL walls for 3 solid minutes, you start to, it's a feeling, right? And it's a big rush. And at the end of the day, those tiles offer so much chance to outplay that if without Bloodlust, you still have a chance to basically outplay the other side as killer is the point I'm trying to make. So getting Bloodlust hit through a window just feels bad, because they just basically WM1'd you at that point.
Yeah. I mean, I was playing on Haddonfield the other this weekend
I'm
when
so
Bloodlust was
sorry.
turned off. Oh, I was a survivor. It's fine. But I was on one of the car loops, which that map sucks, but at least those loops are playable as killer. And we were playing as this Legion, and they were just holding W the entire time around it, just kind of following me around it because they just wanted to bloodlust me around it basically, but they didn't know it was turned off. and it's like if it wasn't turned off, then that doof would have downed me. Like,
No,
and I was sitting there literally for a gen, an entire gen, like a solo gen, running him around that same loop that he refused to mind game at all, just followed me around it.
That poor baby.
But I mean, that's the problem, though.
Yeah.
Like, bloodlust does not lend itself to like interesting gameplay. Bloodlust lends itself to that, which is like,
it's just holding W around a loop for both of you. And
Yeah.
also it kind of teaches, because I mean, I've said this like every time I get a baby on stream, is that like I'm watching them do these dumb mind games. I'm like, what are you doing? And it's like they do that because it's worked before, it worked on someone. So like that's just kind of how you learn, is by, you know, you do something once, it works, you do it again. So that's also the thing with bloodlust, is that like, why are you gonna, like, if this works, you know? And that's, they learn that just holding W around the loop will work and you'll eventually get them. And so like, why are you gonna learn to mind game or anything? And that's what it teaches baby killers, is that you can do this. You don't have to learn anything
Yeah, it
to
encourages
get it down.
bad gameplay.
Yeah, it encourages you to basically not learn any skills at all.
Something on the topic of that, you're on the topic of like learning, something that like Toothy and I have talked about before, and this is kind of a side note. If there was a more robust tutorial system that
Oh my
covered
God.
things like, you know, what's a tile? How can you catch somebody in a tile? How can you outplay them? Like, how can you know, what are the tools you have as a killer, like even just an M1 killer, to outplay someone, and you know, not to bloodlust 3 somebody around a fucking pallet for like 3 years, it would help, because people coming into the game, they wouldn't, like, you know, base their success off of what works against rank 20 survivors. You know, they would have like the tools, like, or at least a start to, like, you know, actually play the fucking game.
Yeah, don't even get me started on the current tutorials. Like, that is just a can we don't want to open. But like, I can't tell you how many times when I modded for tofu that someone came in asking a basic question that the tutorial did not answer, and that you couldn't get an answer in game. And it's like, why? Like, why? Like, bless your soul, you're just trying to learn the basics of this game. But like, why do you have to go into like a streamer's chat and be like, can you please help me understand? Because I don't understand.
No, 100%. Yeah, like it's so. I mean, that's why there's so much stealth at low ranks, right? Because it doesn't tell you, like, hey, you know, if you run into a window at a right angle, you can get a fast vault, and like this is what a longbow is, and this is, you know, what happens when the killer does this. This is what happens when the killer does this. It's like there's nothing. It doesn't, like, just like basic things that it just does not even cover. It's kind of crazy.
I think
I don't
another
know, 'cause,
thing.
like, I just remember, and Zimnex again remembers this too, right? Like, there wasn't even a tutorial for so long, no tooltips, no nothing, right? And I just feel like if you're interested, especially if you're interested enough to be watching Twitch, you can find resources and you can learn. I mean, I'm not saying that you shouldn't be in the game, but I'm not sure that, you know, how to run a tile is a necessary tutorial in game, like, in my opinion. Like, that's something that
Yeah.
you need to learn from experience. You know what I mean? Like, you need to learn how things are set up, you need to learn map layouts, and you learn from experience. That's how this game is built. You actually
The problem
rewards
is,
you
like,
for the more experience that you accrue. And so I personally think that you just need to learn. And I think that some of the problems in this game are that you don't have the problem is, right, things like bloodlust, for example, it means you don't have to learn shit, right? You can just like slap on a bunch of slowdown perks, you don't learn shit, the game lasts forever, and you can win against survivors with 10k hours total in the
'Cause
lobby. It's crazy.
it just teaches bad habits. Now, what I will say is that there is an element of things that you should learn from experience, right? I agree with that. Although I do think the tutorial could do with some improvements. They've done a good job in the sense that they've been kind of adding on to it, and there are certain things that you just won't be able to teach people, like, as Karen was saying, learning how to run tiles in a particular way, or even in your own way, that's only going to come with experience off of, like, you know, what you think and see ends up working, and, you know, you're not going to really be able to explain that to a player that just picked up the game. But what I think you can teach them is just, you know, more the fundamentals of the game, like, hey, this is probably, you know, your best defense right here, and, you know, no matter how you use it, this is here to actually save you in a chase for longer. And I think, you know, I think teaching people more about the basic fundamentals would be a great thing, because I feel like they just don't touch it enough.
No, 100%. I was gonna say, Karen, like I totally agree. Like, you know, me, like I'm hyper obsessive. Like I'll sit there like looking at top downs of like long wall palettes and like analyzing like, okay, well if he does this, you can do this. But I think at the end of the day, you know, if you play solo survivor with this matchmaking, you're going to be going against people who are like pretty casual. You know what I mean? Like people who don't have that amount of like time or effort to put into the game, and just having a system so that when they finish the tutorial they have just a basic understanding of things like do the gens like that, even just that, like even just something so basic as that, like, you know, don't be scared of the heartbeat, do gens, like pay attention to when the killer is chasing you. Like it would make the solo survivor, because like for me, I don't like solo survivor is like unplayable, like I won't touch it, like it's just the most like horribly depressing thing in the world.
Yeah.
But if there was some kind of like knowledge base with these new players to just have a foot in the door, so you don't get three blendettes who, you know, do nothing, it would really bring I think everyone's experience up. And as killer too, like, you know, how fun is it to play against rank 18 people who literally just like don't know what the sprint key does, and like you know, it would mean that like everyone is brought up to a more equal level, and I think it would just make the game way better.
Maybe. I just think, but honestly, right, when I think about myself, right, at rank 18, you were legitimately scared, right? Like, you were, like, legitimately scared, like, about what could happen, right? You couldn't, like, I know for myself, right, you hold W, you can't even look behind you and you run. Like, of course you're gonna hide. I don't know. I just think that some of this just comes with time. And I think that, I mean, I do agree, though, right? Like, the problem is that you can have 100 hours on either side and achieve the highest rank possible in this game and be playing at the same rank as somebody with 7,000 hours in this game. That's crazy. And like, I remember when I first got rank 1, I was like, oh, hey, look, I'm rank 1. I'm the same rank as Jundenise and Otofu. And I literally cannot look behind myself when I run. Like, I'm not even remotely equal. And so I think that, to me, I think that might like get more to that problem where, you know, like they can only rank up so high, but then the amount of the experience gap at that rank is humongous. At red ranks is humongous now, you know, and especially because you're hard stuck at red ranks right now. Like once you get to red ranks, you're pretty much hard stuck there. And so, and I think that makes it even worse, right? Like you just have these people who are just like don't have them experience game, don't know what they're doing, but they're still stuck in red ranks, you know?
Yeah, and then there's like games where like I can't even tell you how many times I will run the killer the entire game, like 5 gen chase, and then I die on hook because they decide to camp me at end game or whatever. Like I die because I take all the aggro, and they're like they have like over 20k points, and they like pip, and I'm sitting here like I got
You got
like
nothing because you were
14k and
chased
I
all game.
D-pipped.
No, 100%.
Yeah.
That's like,
Like,
that
I call
that
that a win, honestly. I'm just like,
yeah, but in the terms of the game is it doesn't recognize that as a win. I think that's a problem. And you get people who like won't take aggro for their teammates, like stealth all the time. All they do is sit there and they hold M1 and they get to like double pip. And I'm like, well, what the fuck did I do wrong?
You don't know
I didn't do
True Pain to get hooked and you
anything
just
wrong.
yeah, you
100%.
don't know True Pain until you get hooked and you see teammate working on a gen, self-carrying and just sitting in a corner.
The medal system is so fucked. Like I don't think it's even a question that the most difficult thing to do as Survivor is run the killer. I mean, that's the engaging part of playing Survivor. I don't know who's out here like, oh man, I just love doing gens, man. That's why I play Dead by Daylight, dude. Just gen rush for days.
That's why I play
But
Survivor, yeah.
exactly. But yeah, like you can like that pretty much happens every game. Whoever gets aggroed for the entire game gets the least amount of points, and it's just like it's really questionable. It's like I almost think it's at the point where you shouldn't pip a survivor unless you can like squeeze out like a 40-50 second chase.
Oh, well, I
Something
mean, like, I personally have no issue with if you like queue with like a whole bunch of people where like if you know one of you takes on the chase role and then one of you takes on like healing and saving and then others do the gens. Like if you get the thing done, who cares how you did it? But I it's just I think capping boldness at like 8k is very like I don't even see like why there should be a cap on at least boldness. Like, who cares if I ran the killer all game? Like, if we got out, the thing got done. Who cares how it got done?
100%, 100%. Yeah, like you get punished for ending games too quickly too. Like
Oh,
like you know, everyone who like Huntress or slug heavy killers, like you know, how many brutal killers do you get in games where you just like it's like a 45-second fucking slaughter fest where everyone just dies
It's
instantly?
honestly still wild that like killers like so the way that the behavior like makes the like medals right they want you to hit a survivor twice. Like that's a good chase. If you down someone with Hillbilly's chainsaw or Bubba or like Ghostface Mark, that's bad to them. That's bad.
Yeah,
Oh,
even
yeah,
like
I
Plague.
always joke that if you get a gold emblem or more on Billy, you're a Millie, like 100%.
Yeah,
Like,
Dude, isn't it wild? That's actually
the fuck out
wild.
of people, and you kept getting back up because I definitely do that too. But
That's,
like,
that's the thing with hunters too, because your chases should end very quickly, right? Because you should hatchet them, or you should pull them off a window, or you know what I mean. And so you'll have a a 4K
Shouldn't it be
game.
like the opposite, right? Like the shorter the chase, the better, the longer the worse, right? Isn't that like
I think
Yeah.
that's how it's weighted. Like that's how they say it's weighted, but it doesn't in practice. It doesn't feel like that. Like as killer, if you end a chase in 2 seconds, that should be like max points, and it should just like it should start. Let's say like the max chase points is like 1K. If chaser is going to be like an 8K cap or whatever, then like every second in the chase you lose like 20 points or whatever. You know what I mean? So then if it's like if you get a 10-second chase, which is pretty good, I would say. Like a 10-second chase from healthy to dying, then you get like 900 points for that chase. So that's like almost an eighth of your chase points for the game, which I think that's completely fine. But it doesn't seem like
Something
I think though the problem with like both Huntress and Billy, I think, is that you could down someone without ever entering chase. Like if you like cross map somebody, you don't enter chase, they die, and you're like, hey, and like, but it doesn't help you at all. You get a your bronze chaser emblem at the end of the game, which honestly I'm happy with because it's my bronze chaser of Billy Pride at 4K for bronze chaser. That's great. That means I did my job well. But but at the same time, if you care about ranking up, that's annoying.
100%. Like the system shouldn't. Let's be real. The first time you get rank 1, ranking up doesn't matter. but it's just like that. The game is like the game shouldn't be weighted like that. Like if you're going to have an emblem system and you're going to have these like eerie emblems that are supposed to be like a sign that I did well this game. And the fact that I know like I suck at Plague. I don't play Plague, but I know that people who play Plague, like you get absolutely dicked by the emblem system playing Plague because you don't hit people. You get them sick, right?
You vomit on them and then
Something
you
I
kill them
think-
with that.
Something I think they should do is like, and as a survivor point of view, for example, is if you're running the killer all game, and like your teammates are doing all the generators, I think since you are actively being chased, the survivor that's actively being chased should be compensated points for not doing generators.
Yeah.
I agree.
Please.
They get complicated. They get compensated. Like, cause I remember one time I had zero. I think I have a screenshot of it too. I had 0 objective points because I ran killer all game, right? And I had like a silver Lightbringer emblem. I was like, what the fuck is this? Why do I have a silver Lightbringer emblems? Because I got like a bunch of points for killer diversion. But I was like, I don't care. I can't buy a flashlight with killer diversion emblem points. I want like points for this.
No, 100%. Like that should tick up to your it should just there should just be a thing like when you're in a chase. Although being in a chase is kind of sus. So like first of all, improve the chase system so you're actually in a chase when you're in a chase. But then if you're in a chase, any gen progress you honestly you should get 2 blood points for every 1 blood point that the person gets for doing the gen. You know what I mean? Because like you're facilitating
because you're keeping the killer busy, giving your team time to do the generators.
Unless if gens were more engaging, which is like another conversation for another time, but if there was like a skill to doing generators, then I could see it. But like just holding M1 and like hitting skill checks.
You're honestly not missing much by taking the chase.
No, exactly.
Yeah, and I think honestly, all the those mechanics are in the game, right? Like for example, if you sabo hook, you save survivor, you will get emblem points for that, but you don't get blood points for that. And like I said, I don't care about my stupid emblem points. I want blood points for my time, And like so they're in the game. I think they just need to actually put them, make them
Like act on it.
blood pointable and not like just, emblem pointable, I think.
100%. 100%. Yeah, and it's such a convoluted system.
Yeah.
Like you kind of illustrated it there. It's like, certain actions will give you like emblem points, but not blood points. Like, why does there need to be a distinction there? Like, why does it need to
Absolutely.
If it was logical, then I could agree with it, but it's just completely it's not logical at all. Like you can get Eerie Unbroken for not going down in the trial, right? You could have you could be on gens all game and you get an Eerie emblem for free, like literally for free because you did yeah, you're just doing gens all game. You know what I mean? Whereas really, even though the person went down 2 times and maybe they even died, like I still think in a way like they deserve that eerie emblem because they facilitated you getting that emblem. Like at the end of the day, like the survivor who carried you should reap all the benefits.
Like, why do I, like, what? I'm the only reason you got out. Why am I depipping and you're, like, double pipping? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, yeah, like, again, like, if I'm carrying you, how come I don't get a piece of that pie, you know?
Even though it feels hard to like wait,
Yeah.
but nowadays I feel like it's hard to actually depip if you like, right? Like if you because like
It's
mostly
it's
specific
happened to
things.
me a
I'm
lot.
not kidding. I'm not joking, right? Because I remember I used to happily depip back in the day, and I remember actually being irritated when I was like, wait, now I can't depip if I get a zero objective point game because I'm going to get like a bunch of Lightbringer points. So I remember that being like, I remember exactly when that changed. Where I like, if I do run killer all game, I feel like you usually safety pip. Am I crazy? Like I feel like I've never depip.
Yeah, you get a safety pips. Fair enough.
Direct anecdote. I played a game literally 2 hours ago. It was on Suffocation Pit with a few friends, and the Billy gave up on the first gen. I don't know why he gave up, but whatever. He was AFK in basement. So me and these 3 people tried to get this one fast vault that was impossible. So we were just screwing around for a little bit. I depipped that game. We did all the gens and left, but I still.
Oh yeah, but that's because you had no killer interaction. Nobody else, you got no like benevolent. No, I get like that makes sense.
What behavior is basically saying in that situation is like, you know what you should have done? You should have ran to that Billy in the basement and just like ran in circles to get like evader points and then like leave. Like why? Why do I have to do that? Like why do I depip for escaping? Like you know.
Oh yeah, okay, I can see your point there. I mean, for me, I don't care about those games. I'm like, you got low points, depip,
It doesn't matter. I'm gonna survive the depip. You know, like emotional trauma may ensue, but I can.
Depipping is not an escape.
Exactly.
Who remembers that one double depip as killer? Just a disgraceful defeat.
Yeah. Or remember when you lost 3? Like if you DC from a game, you lose 3 pips. I remember those days. Like I definitely remember those days.
Yeah,
Bro, please take me back.
Yes.
Right? I was like, yes.
Well, they definitely got rid of it because people could just do that and get to rank 20 and then smurf really hard.
Yes. No, I definitely remember why.
Hopefully.
The bloodlust gone good.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's basically what we're trying to say here.
I'd be totally fine with them just, keeping Bloodlust out. I mean, maybe if they want to keep Bloodlust 1, that might be okay, but can we just please get rid of Bloodlust 2?
I think Bloodlust 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bloodlust 1's completely fine. I have no problem with that.
Get Bloodlust 1, like, when you're hitting someone on a window or something, and, like, it helps a little bit. I don't think that's the end of the world.
Yeah.
Or, like, someone dead hard just helps make up for a little bit of loss distance.
Oh, you know what? That's actually a good point of discussion, actually. I did think of. So for me, like, that is a reason why I can see why they would get rid of Bloodlust 1, right? Because you can still dead hard for distance and stuff like that. So for me personally, I would not mind sacrificing exhaustion perks for getting rid of Bloodlust completely. But I don't know if anybody else agrees with this.
I'd be fine with that.
Sacrificing exhaustion perks.
You know what? I think you're onto something. Got to make sprint burst to cool down.
Oh no.
I mean, it needs to be. I had this idea that maybe. But I think you can't make. I was like, maybe you should make it like you get a token for 1 sprint burst from the gen stuff. But I don't think activatable sprint burst is a good idea ever. Like, I think it's a terrible idea.
That just be the strongest thing in the entire game.
Right. And so I don't know like what a good solution is for sprint burst particularly, but like I feel like for most others, right, you can make balance landing just like a passive, like a cooldown for the reduced stagger. That would still be a great perk. Or you could there's like other things you could do. I don't know what you do with Dead Hard, but like you could Dead Hard, you could actually do a token system, right, for Dead Hard. You have a couple tokens and you use your Dead Hard a couple times, but like I do think that like I would be willing, but I don't run exhaustion perks either, so that's me being like, hey, you can run some nerf exhaustion, but I don't run exhaustion perks.
Nerf exhaustion, forehead.
I think Dead Hard would be fine if it was assuming dedicated servers worked and it was actually a perk you could use to dodge hits, it would be fine. And most exhaustion perks I don't think are like the end of the world. I just think in its current state, the way you can be playing killer and you're like, okay, I fucked my red light around, I got distance on him, I'm going to get a hit here unless he has Dead Hard, and he just Dead Hards, and you're like, wow, damn, I just got so played, dude. That guy pressed E.
Yeah, like
the window.
Like when it comes to like Dead Hard, actually one of my mods had a great idea for it where it's like, you could actually buff buff it a little bit, but what would happen is if you use Dead Hard, you'd be locked out of like the ability to drop pallets or to vault windows for about like maybe 1.5 seconds or even like 2 seconds at most. That way like you can use it to dodge a hit, and, maybe it could be a little bit more effective at doing that. But if you're looking to use it as distance, then you're just gonna get yourself killed.
I think the
I mean, that
Dead
kind of
Hard is
eliminates-
like the most versatile exhaustion. So it can be like Sprint Burst obviously has like a use, right? You just like sit there and then like act, or like if you already used it and you're waiting to activate it again. But like Dead Hard is just any like balance landing has this like thing where it's like you obviously you balance and you land and you start running. But Dead Hard has been used in so many categories where it's like it's probably like the most versatile.
See, I would actually tend to disagree. I think Sprint Burst is like not only like it's actually just kind of better than Dead Hard in every way, and it's more versatile because you can't Dead Hard if you get Billy chainsawed, you can't Dead Hard if you get Leatherface chainsawed or whatever, right? But you can sure as fuck Sprint Burst halfway across Shelter Woods and make it to the one long wall on the map. You know what I mean? Like just in terms of strength and versatility, I think Sprint Burst is like probably one of the best.
I completely agree, but I know I agree because I'm a Billy main. I know that's why I agree. Like I know that I don't see Dead Hard that often, honestly. But I see people fucking sprint bursting, like walking, like slow walking as that person is. Oh my god, I got outskilled. They ran to a building. Oh god,
like huge, right? And like with Dead Hard, you can just kind of you can do the Scott where you go yeet and they Dead Hard. Like you can just wait for them to do it and then not swing like a Papega. But you sprint burst, you can't. Like literally, if you're not playing like I can hatchet somebody in the middle of a sprint burst too, sure. But if I'm playing like Peg or something and somebody sprint bursts away from you, like there's nothing you could do. Like they just get distance on you for free. Like it's literally. And yeah, no, it's nutty. I just don't like. I don't like it because it's boring. I don't like running it because it's very like, I ran very quickly away from you. Get outplayed, stinky. But but in terms of strength and versatility, no, I don't think anything comes close.
I just don't run exhaustion perks. So yeah, if that's how we gotta get bloodlust out of the game, I'm willing to sacrifice.
I'd be down too, because it wouldn't affect me.
No, I think like really, at the end of the day, you only need an exhaustion perk if you make a mistake, and if you never make a mistake, or if you're in like a dead zone or something like that. But if you
I always play perfectly, so therefore I never use exhaustion perk.
Exactly, yes.
I mean, I don't run exhaustion either, but I feel like there's a difference with bloodlust and exhaustion because if you get outplayed by someone who has exhaustion, it's because they're purposely doing that versus a killer that's just holding W at a pallet and getting hit.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like it's sort of like whataboutism type thing.
So I feel like I would rather like you can nerf exhaustion. I don't run it either. But I do run sprint burst for those gens that are in the middle of nowhere, I feel like I need it for those situations.
Yeah, exactly.
But then it's also like, is it the sprint burst you need, or do we just not need to have?
Or maybe maybe you shouldn't have dead zones.
Yeah.
Well, it's like a band-aid for a problem that shouldn't exist, but because it does, we do need that fix. So.
Yeah, but like as an end game, like I wouldn't be opposed to like either exhaustion perks being reworked or just like exhaustion not really being a thing except for like maybe like head on or something like that. Like I wouldn't mind.
Can't get rid of my head on.
I feel like the one that everyone complains about most is like Dead Hard. Like I think balanced landing was nerfed. Sprint burst, like you can bait them into using it, or once you do use it, it's kind of you have that 40-second whatever it is time where you have to wait, and now you can't use it in a chase anymore. But like Dead Hard's the one where everyone's like, oh well, they just pressed E and they got the pallet, even though I moonwalked. Well, that sucks.
You can 99 sprint burst. Not a lot of people do.
I mean, I do that. I know it can definitely be annoying, but I think Dead Hard's the one that everyone really complains about because if all of them have 4 Dead Hards, DS, like if everyone's running 4 meta, that can really, really be punishing.
And I think the other thing about Dead Hard is that it's also the easiest to use in the most annoying way possible. Like with Sprint Burst, alright, yeah, they use it, but then that's it.
Yeah.
Their Sprint Burst is gone. But with Dead Hard, they can choose when, so it becomes a lot easier to use it at a time that's convenient to you. So it's like it's more in your face that way. It's like, oh look at me, I have Dead Hard, now I'm gonna go past the pallet and drop it. Whereas with Sprint Burst, it's like you get that speed boost, and well, sometimes they won't even have it available if you show up because some people just don't want to walk across the map, so they'll use it to get to another generator a little bit faster, and then, well, that'll be it. They won't have it ready for the chase. But with Dead Hard, they always have it.
And like I mean, even just using it like that, like that's still a use, you know, like using sprint burst to get to like traverse the map faster is still like insane utility. Maybe it's not like game breaking utility, but
Oh,
hey,
without a
like,
doubt.
well, you were talking the other day about Thana, how like 8% gen regression can save you a gen, like 2 extra seconds on a gen can give you the gen. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, like you're seeing on that one match where it's like, because I had Thanatophobia at like 2 stacks, I think that's like 10%, right? What
yeah,
would happen is that the dude got grabbed off of it after I downed 2 other people who were working on it, and like Thanatophobia gave just enough value to where I got to keep that generator for the rest of the game. So like, it's such a small difference, yet it kind of shows that if a killer could get that kind of value out of a perk that's not considered to be all that good, just imagine how much value Survivor's getting out of a perk that is actually widely considered to be one of the best Survivor perks in the game.
huge, 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 huge. I think I don't know. I think like the idea of like removing exhaustion perks, I just don't see it. Like I can't see it happening. Like it's kind of integral to the game. But I do think that their like potency could be somewhat reduced. Yeah. I just wish Dead Hard, like honestly, because the thing is about Dead Hard is super OP and unfair until you go against a killer with 180 ping, and then what are you gonna do? You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
you can't go for you can go for the boring dead hearts, but I like being kind of saucy. You know, I like dead hearting in the killer's face and stuff like that, and that's just like not an option anymore. Like you'll get exhausted on the floor and get hit halfway through your dash. Like
Yeah, without a doubt. Is there anything else you would like to go over with Bloodlust?
That's
No,
about
I don't
it.
think so.
Okay. Well,
Bloodlust bad.
I agree. Bloodlust is bad. So, another thing that the devs actually announced were a set of changes made to the PTB. So, after the Bloodlust experiment, they put up another announcement where they were like, hey, you know what? We did some changes to the PTB as well. So, for instance, they went over the twins, the perk changes, and so I want to get an idea of what you all think of. So really quickly, I'll just go over my thoughts to where I think the changes they made to the twins are a step in the right direction, but I do feel as if it's just not really enough. So for instance, I'm not a fan of the idea of revealing Victor after 45 seconds. I've always been of the opinion that as Charlotte, you should just be allowed to recall Victor. And, you know, it could come at the penalty of a larger cooldown, so you can't just spam Victor left and right. But, you know, I feel like you should always be able to recall Victor back to you instead of just having to wait, because that's just not interactive for either side. And plus, that way, you have, like, you know, the option where the survivor doesn't feel like they have to take it off, so now you have more versatility that way, because, you know, they're no longer just having their aura revealed or whatever. So there's like that versatility of you know when you want to remove it because you could be getting value out of it at that point in time. Whereas the survivor might be like, you know what? I don't want them to know where Victor's at anymore, so I'm gonna take it off. But I feel as if they should just allow you to recall Victor, and then on top of that, what they should have done is I feel like they should have reduced the time between switching between Charlotte and Victor in the sense that it's instant if you switch to Victor, but it takes like 3 seconds to switch to Charlotte, where I feel like it could be like 2 seconds instead. And then on top of that, they also nerfed 2 perks that weren't all that big of a, they weren't really that big of a deal for either side. Like Coup de Grace, it only activated like 5 times a game, and that got nerfed. And then Appraisal was actually taking people off of generators to do all these silly little things with chest. Why that get nerfed? So what do we all feel about the PTB changes they announced?
I swear that people of behavior have never played test their game. Dude, I'm sorry, you can't convince me. There's no way.
I would tend to. I also agree. The fact, like the locker thing, and also the hit out. Like I remember, remember it's like, oh, you can't leave when Victor's on your shoulders. It's like,
Yeah, but then they just get hit out anyway.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, wow.
Like it's. I know. I agree, and I don't. I really don't want to turn this into like a badge behavior thing, although it's just so fucking easy. But yeah, it's like it's so questionable, man. It's like literally.
I'll accept, I'll accept that there's some things slip through the crack, but when it's like blatant, obvious things that's like,
Well, like I was watching McLean stream a while ago, and somebody brought up a chat. They're like, "Oh, you guys release 4 killers a year," and he was like, "Yep, that's a really ambitious schedule." And it was kind of with this hint of like malice, and I just think they're literally just they're fucking trying to churn these killers out faster than they can balance or actually, I don't want to say come up with good ideas because they've had good ideas for the last two, but like they're just churning them out faster than they can, It's like building a Jenga castle on top of like one block, and there's
Any percent speed run?
Yeah, literally, it's like an MC Escher painting. It's going on in all these crazy different directions, and and somehow the structure is still standing, but it's just very like. I just for once, I want something to come into this game that's fucking polished. You know, I want them to release something and be like, damn, like this is a finished product. You know, like this is something that clearly people who have knowledge of this game, like an intimate knowledge of this game, have gone through, and like yes, like everything is fair. I in my 8 months of playing this game, it's never happened. Like
I mean, to be fair, that's the whole point of like the player test build, is to test it. Even though that was kind of like the locker thing was kind of a big oversight.
But then they changed stuff between PTB and live, which
they
most
don't
of the time
test.
nobody ever asked for.
Yeah,
hey, really quickly before we continue, I think Posh needs to just announce one thing really quickly.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, I actually have to dip out for family dinner, but thank you so
Understandable.
much. It was awesome talking to all of you, and hearing
nice
what y'all
meeting
had
you.
to say.
Yeah,
It was
nice
nice meeting you all too.
It's great having you on here.
Yeah,
Yeah, have a
pleasure.
nice
Yeah.
dinner.
Have a
Thank
good dinner,
you.
Posh.
See ya, have a great
All
Send us
right.
pictures of the
Later,
dinner.
Posh.
Have a good
Oh,
evening.
definitely. That's tacos. I'm so excited.
Oh my god, Sharon.
Nice.
Hell yeah.
All right, have a good podcast.
Thank you, and thank you for
Bye.
stopping by.
Yeah, later.
Alright. Sorry, it's just I do want sometimes these do go on for a little while here, so I wanted to give her a chance to bring that up.
Yeah, she's got to eat, you know.
Yeah, people gotta eat.
Understandable.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not
Yeah.
here to trap you in
Someone's
here.
hungry,
Talk.
man.
I
I've
mean,
been munching on Cheez-Its for the past half hour.
Oh, you're
maybe
not
in the
sharing?
future I might consider doing that, but
I've had punch. That's
could.
all I've drank.
Oh my gosh. But I will say, I think the twins is like, I think that's the most fun anyone's ever had on the PTB or against a killer, because it was literally just
Yeah,
so
in a
fun,
while.
and it's
Absolutely.
so refreshing to see after like Deathslinger and Pyramid Head that they come out with something like this.
Like I don't think, and like I've been consistently scared for several hours in a row with 4,000 hours, like I was during that PTB ever. Like I thought it was fantastic. Like I
Mhm.
get yeah, there's some tweaks here and there that you make, but this was by far the best PTB they've had years. It's not even close in my opinion. Like I thought it was well, I mean, I guess there was like I thought demo was pretty great too. I don't even think they made that many changes from demo PTB to live either, but it was pretty great.
Shame they couldn't have done something about Hawkins.
hey, really quickly, I actually had someone in the chat bring something up that I think we could probably discuss a little bit about. So Hex brought up there's this whole thing with like Pig where if you try to leave with the helmet on your head while it's active, it kills you, but you can leave through the hatch. And Victor actually has like a similar thing where you cannot leave with him on your head because of the enemy blocker, but yet you can kind of leave through the hatch still. Did we want to go over that really quickly, or?
I actually have something to add to that. Funny enough, you know how you can't leave while Victor is on you, right?
Yeah.
There's actually an easy workaround against that. You stand at the you stand at the very end of the door, and if Charlotte hits you, you just fall into the exit gate. There's nothing stopping.
They
you
actually
from falling.
changed that with the PTB changes.
They're reworking it.
Ooh, that's interesting.
So
Yeah,
it
so
like
linger.
stays up for longer.
Yeah, it lingers
Was
for
it
a
like
couple
2
of extra
seconds?
seconds. Yeah.
I don't personally think Hatch is a good mechanic at all. So
I think Hatch is all right.
I think it's necessary in some
it
cases.
is I think
Yeah.
there should be some out for the last survivor. Like I'm not saying you should just have to crouch over the killer and give them your toolbox and hope they show mercy. But as hilarious as that is, I just think there's again I keep bringing this word up, but if there was some kind of engagement with the last survivor, if there was something a bunch of pallets reset and then it was basically the killer had a 40 or however long second timer to get the survivor or they just escape. Something like that would be interesting, but there's just so much BS around Hatch. But I don't want to turn this into a discussion about Hatch. But I think that you being able to leave through Hatch with Victor on your head is fine. It's the same thing with Pig, right? It just gives you an option. It means that if you're trapped and there's 10 seconds on the end game collapse, there's still maybe kind of sort of a chance.
I don't know, because with Pig you kind of have to go to a trap to get it off, and if she camps the traps you can't really get them. But with Victor, you can just pull him off while you're running. It's not that difficult to get him off.
Well, the gripe with Victor is that when you pull Victor off, he gets unlocked.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you run at full speed when you're pulling pulling Victor?
Yeah, definitely do. I've actually, funny enough, is that I think that if you're pulling, I don't know if it's why they have it, but when you pull Victor off of you and throw him on the ground, you're stuck in that animation for a while. And I've actually went down because I couldn't move because I pulled Victor off of me.
That's pretty debilitating. I think like that just seems like I mean I think everyone here you ever like go to vault a window and you randomly scream because of Doctor and get screwed out of your window vault. Like I think the more of that they introduce in the game, the worse.
I mean,
Like,
yeah, but you could always just keep Victor on your back, like if
Oh,
if you're
yeah.
getting chased.
Fair
Like that
enough.
that's an easy workaround.
Fair enough. Although there is the side where if you're running like Iron Will or something, you know, you can do kind of saucy stuff at tiles. Like you can like walk around the killer and like kind of like disappear. And if you have the baby on your back, or fuck, I said it. If you have Victor on your back, no, don't ban me now. If you have Victor on your back, that kind of removes that because he's like you know what I mean. Like it kind of eliminates any like there is like I'm trying to say there's like an incentive to get it off. So if you have Iron Will or you like to make plays based around like sneaking out of the loop when they double back, you can't do that anymore because all of a sudden your location is just like really obvious.
Yeah, but I'm fine with that because Charlotte's an M1 killer, and it's like complaining about Plague that I vomit when I go against Plague, and I don't think anyone would be like, "Oh, that's too OP." Like,
Fair.
If anything,
But I
that's
mean-
just incentive to take him off of you.
yeah. Which
But I would hate to like be in a situation where I need to take the thing off to like vault a window, or like I need to take him off to get rid of it. But like it just ends up being like kind of a mishmash of things. I don't know. I'm just like I think it's probably fine. I'm just trying to poke holes in it.
I think the only time that you have to take him off is if you want to work on gens or like heal somebody.
Hmm.
You can do literally everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like you can still lead a chase and all that. Like it doesn't interfere with chase mechanics unless you're literally pulling him off. And I do know you have like that one period of time where it's like you just you can't really do anything for about I think it's like a second in order to kick him.
Yeah, that animation.
Yeah,
Nice catch.
I know. I almost said it. I almost said it. I don't want to say it, but I almost did.
Yeah, that was good. You caught it.
So one thing I do want to go over though is the perk changes. So for instance, they did nerf coup de grace and appraisal. How do we feel about the perk nerfs?
I think Coup de Grace nerf was just completely like uncalled
Uh,
for.
I think we're gonna cycle back to the first topic, unnecessary.
It's
Yeah. 100%.
questionable. It's like when they nerfed like Hunter's Lullaby, right? It's like you took a perk that no one was using and nerfed it. Question mark.
It's like the people that are like, dude, Bloodlust is gone. How am I gonna use my Beast of Prey? I dare you to name one person that uses it.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's just
It's
yeah,
just confusing.
why? Like why would you do it?
Like-
No, like imagine a killer perk based on like losing gens. Like you know the fire up meta that you ever get like darn dude if that killer didn't have fire up man I would have like why why they saw it as
The
problematic.
thing about Coup de Grace is like that's a scam that people don't really like. I don't know if people don't realize, but like it doesn't actually increase the speed at which you lunge. It just increases the duration. So
Mhm.
for survivors holding shift and you lunge for that double, you're actually losing distance.
Mhm.
You have to use so like the double distance, you have to catch back up to the survivor. So it's actually like one of the biggest scams.
I mean, if you're running around just like a basic loop, if you're like just a simple like run around, like it can give you the extra distance to get a hit before they make it to the pallet.
Oh yeah, but I don't know.
That's
Just the
one
fact that
hit.
they nerf that is like actually insane. That's like
Yeah, no, yeah, and it's like one because you might not need it, and then great, you just have this perk that did nothing. Like
Shadowborn 2 with extra steps.
exactly.
And how about appraisal, where it's like this is like a perk that got survivors off of generators, and I understand getting like 15 items in one game is ridiculous, but yet I feel like that was just kind of funny because not every item you get was going to be good.
Yeah,
But,
honestly,
I mean, it's like, you can still it works. You just have to go to different chests. I don't think that's a big deal, honestly. Like to me, like I mean, I do think. I mean, it is pretty. I mean, it was hilarious, right? You just sit at one chest, just loot it over and over and over and over again. But I feel like having to go to different chests is not even remotely the end of the world.
No, I don't think I don't think it is at all. I mean, I don't know. Like, I think like my only complain about that perk that has nothing to do with just that perk. It has to do with plunders and like keys existing.
Yeah,
So,
honestly, I was literally gonna say if they made it so that that perk could never get a key, I would literally wouldn't care.
yeah,
You could have like you have like flashlights with all like batteries on it, wouldn't give a shit.
Yeah,
100%.
I would think that'd be great. I agree. I would take that perk easily.
Yeah, exactly. Like no keys, dude. Sign me the fuck up. That's time waster 500 right there.
I'd take
100%.
it.
And even as Survivor, again, it gives you something to do that isn't just fucking motor rushing, right? So it's actually kind of fun. But the fact that like, yeah, like I heard somebody say once the other day that they thought Plunders was OP, and I thought about it for a second. I was like, you know what? Honestly, you're like kind of right. Like on one hand, because the fact that like somebody takes a perk and like a key is always in play, and you can't like you can't bring the ivory like a lot of people have taken to doing. Like it's kind of ridiculous, like how insane like the fact of like a key being pulled on you like in the middle of a game. Like it's kind of an insane sort of thing to have to play around. So like its contribution to that I think is annoying, but just the idea of looting chests, like no, I think it's great.
I've
That's
had
actually
so
not a
many
bad point. Because back in the day, right, you couldn't
Back
even
in my
get
day.
keys. Yeah, it's like, oh my god, I feel like
my
such
God.
old ass woman talking about this game. Oh my god. I've been playing this game too long. It's so embarrassing. Anyways, so yeah, you couldn't even get pink items out of chests. Like that was true for a very long time. Like right, like that was like what 2 years?
Yeah, basically.
2.5 years, I think. I think it was after like some winter event. I think they
Brown
changed it.
Medkit Central.
Yeah, it was brown mecha exactly, but it was fine, right? Because you get flashlights, whatever, right? But you definitely like getting keys was not common because you could only get like one useful key. It was that purple key, right?
Yeah, for
And
sure.
so ever since they changed that rarity, yeah, you can get it's much more easy. It's much easier to do it. So that was like that was a plunderous change that happened, like that happened that they probably. I agree. I'm wholeheartly in favor of them looking at that
Plunders,
one.
like the original Plunders, literally all it did was just allow you to see the auras of chests. It didn't improve any. It was
That's right.
literally just it was bond with chests.
I pretty much run plunders in most of my builds as survivor, and I'll admit like 90% of the time I'll find a key out of a chest almost every single game.
Oh yeah, no, that's the problem, right? Like it's and it has nothing to do with plunders or the idea. It's just like the fact that keys exist.
No, it does have something to do with plunderers. It's like because like what that was not possible before in plunderers.
Yeah, it's just sorry, I misspoke. I mean to say that like like as in a world where keys don't exist, plunders isn't a problem. Like if you get a purple flashlight or like a purple.
I mean, to be honest, keys wouldn't really be so much of a problem if it just allowed the one survivor holding it to get out with it.
I actually had a
Instead
different
of-
idea.
I disagree. Let me just say real quick. The reason it's like Maury's. It's like a get out of playing the video game free card. Like that's my problem. Like even for one survivor, it's literally like as the killer, he's just like I play.
But for Survivor, keys actually kind of require you to do your objective, where Maury's, all you have to do is just tunnel somebody off first hook
Yeah.
easy.
I don't want to make the comparison. I don't want to start playing like keys are more OP than Maury's. Maury's are OP than keys.
It's a dangerous game.
Exactly. Like both of them just fundamentally circumvent you having to do what you do normally to win a game of DBD, and that is bad, I think.
Yeah, like they both cut out a chunk of the gameplay. Now, when it comes to keys, I actually think that the problem comes in with the actual spawning mechanic of the hatch rather than the item itself, where it's like, would keys be a problem if the hatch only spawned when one survivor was left alive, or if it spawned in during the endgame collapse when multiple are alive?
I think if it was just when there was one survivor left, and if keys instead of being something that you get in blood webs, and it's something, if it was like there was a key spawn on every map, like what if there was like just a key like on the floor in every map, like hidden somewhere, and it only appeared like when the hatch got closed?
Nobody would be doing generators. They'd just be all over the map looking for the key.
Fair enough. And then I'm just trying to I'm trying to think of a way that you can't just get keyed on. Like you can't just get someone to bring a key on you in the middle of the way. Like actually making it, because if it's just a part of the trial every time, then it becomes something you can play around and you'll learn to like you know what I mean? That was just like a spitballed idea. That's really what I'm trying to say. It's like if keys were more woven into the way every trial went down instead of being something that your 3k hour friend brings every time because he has like 50 dull keys, it would be more enjoyable, I think.
I have like 400 keys,
Yeah,
but
exactly, right? Like,
Oh my gosh.
little bit of silence there. Whoops. I
Oh,
was like expecting a little bit more there. My bad. But yeah, just something like that because like right now it's just I feel like keys are just like the only problematic item, and then you have Moris for killers as well. So like I feel like if they did that, then perhaps they wouldn't have looked at appraisal the same way. Cause like I would 100% run that perk if it didn't give you a key.
There's just something to do, right? That isn't generators.
Yeah, cause like that's my main reason as to why I didn't really like the nerf when I first read it, because it was like, well, if you think of it this way, they still had to go out of their way to loot the chest, so I mean, they're still wasting time, right? Now, how much time? It varies depending on the map, because on larger maps, they're wasting more time to actually find the chest, and on smaller maps, you kind of like, you can get to the chest really fast, but you're still wasting time in general, because you're trying to loot and then re-loot for an item that is actually useful for the scenario that you're in. Like, if you're injured, you're not going to really take a toolbox over a med kit if you get like a pretty good med kit. But yet, if you only get the toolbox, then yeah, you're going to use that. But with appraisal, it just kind of incentivizes you to waste more time to actually loot that chest again to get the item that you need for that scenario.
For sure.
And that's why I was against it. So I feel as if, alright, maybe the appraisal nerf isn't like, the end of the world, but I do feel as if both of the perk changes we saw on both sides was very unnecessary.
So I'm gonna open Pandora's box here. I'm sorry, this is probably gonna be a 10-minute thing, but the fact that they like this perk that is like engaging and actually incentivizes people, they felt like it should be nerfed, and DS still strong and active in the game. 60 seconds of fuck you, idiot, I do what I want. Completely acceptable. Like, again, to go back to the first point, priorities are a little bit of a sticking point.
Oh yeah, it's kind of like, we do kind of round back to priorities, don't we? And a few other things as well.
yeah.
But wait, but to me, but am I crazy? Like, what DS it hasn't been that long since they changed DS, right? Like, it's only been what, like, they changed DS around Plague, right? When Plague came out,
roughly a year ago, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not even that long.
Just to answer a question in chat, my solution for DS, it's like, it's Scott's. Like, I'll cop it unironically. Like, it's literally just 30 seconds. Your DS is active for 30 seconds. It freezes if you're in a chase. And if yeah, like you said, if you touch a gen or get healed, you lose DS because you're not being tunneled anymore. Like, yeah, and it's supposed to be an anti-tunnel perk. And if it is supposed to be an anti-momentum perk, then that's fucking stupid. That's like literally like.
Honestly, you can just make DS the day one DS, but just make it so that enduring works on it.
I don't really agree with
I love enduring work. I miss enduring work on DS so much, dude.
Bro, take me back. I'm a boomer, bro. I'm a boomer.
Oh my god, I'm a fucking DVD boomer. I'm like, yes, those were the days.
Bro, take me back to the original DS, dude. 5 whole seconds tier 3, but my enduring cuts that shit down to like 2.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Okay, I agree that like I think like DS should be in the game. Like there should be a like it's almost like a scumbag deterrent, from people just tunneling you off of fucking first hook and just like totally like 3-hooking you and killing your fun. Like I think DS should exist in the game, but like it should function in a way that isn't like, I had a game
60 seconds is a whole generator, my mans.
Oh yeah, no, exactly. Like I had a game. It was probably one of the most tilting things I've ever experienced. It was on Sanctum, and I like hooked a survivor, went across the map, found a fully healed survivor who had been hooked like I guess like 35 seconds ago, killed them within like 15 seconds, got 59-second DS, and I'm like, great. Walked across the map, found another survivor, down them. Like this is completely separate interactions, and got DS like back to fucking back. That was like 60 seconds of both of those survivors being completely immune, and then like. I don't know if you guys watch Zubat compilations as religiously as I do, but there's one recently where like 3 back to back, just like DS, back to back. Goddamn, tunneled 3 people at once, and it's so disgusting. And the other thing is, it's a perk that you have to play around all the time. There's nothing equivalent to that as Survivor. It's not like, well, I guess No-Ed might be the only comparison, but like. No one's gonna do like very few people are gonna do
Fanat maybe.
Pop is probably like right. The amount of people I've gone down to commit to a gen for Pop, absolutely.
Yeah, Pop.
I guess they exist. I guess they.
Fury.
What I'm more meant to say is if it's not there, like unless you know the guy.
You mean, are you talking about the chance that like, oh, they might have
exactly.
DS?
Like if there's an obsession in the game, you
Well,
have to play around DS.
Well, honestly, there should be a session in every game.
Maybe.
I'm
Yeah,
being
there
quite
should.
frank.
Yeah.
Like the amount of times that even I will be like, oh, there's no obsession. I'll let
Yeah,
you
you can just
It's
yeah.
that's a dickhead thing to do. I shouldn't be able to
no
make that
obsession.
decision.
Time to tunnel.
Yeah.
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 No, 100%. That's why I said like there should be a tunneling deterrent. Like 100%. I'm totally down for that. But like the way DS functions now, and like locker DS, like that shit needs to go. Like that is so stupid. Like that is the ultimate in like I do what I want. Fuck you. Like literally.
Have you heard of Ryan Pez's DS? Like what he wanted for DS or no?
I have not.
He wants it so that you can still have the 60-second timer or whatever, but it deactivates whenever another person gets hooked. No matter how long it took.
My idea actually, because like I feel like there's like one word that could be abused. Like let's say that you down someone who just got unhooked, and then you go after the other person. I feel as if it could be abused for that. But my idea is that I think it should remain at 60 seconds. But if you touch a generator, or you like try to do a totem, or you get fully healed, so basically anything that indicates that you had the time to get away from the area and not be tunneled, because you're clearly doing something else, I feel like it should deactivate if you try to progress the game.
I feel like
I don't know.
DS should deactivate if you perform like any of your objective actions, such as touching a totem, a generator, or even using like a flashlight to get a save.
I completely agree. Morg, by the way, my counter to that and the reason, and this still happens in games to me, and it's so frustrating. The way it could be abused in that situation is what happens is you hook the guy, you leave. You don't see any survivors on any other generator. The guy gets unhooked. You're like, okay, I'm going to contest the hook. I'm going to go back to the hook, right?
Yep.
So you walk back to the hook. The guy who unhooked immerses in the corner, like he crouches, and the guy who just got off the hook, like leaves a bunch of scratch marks leading across the map, and he's right out in the open. So you're given this, you're like, okay, I can like look for this immersed bitch like crouching around the map, which could take a while, or I can go for this guy right in my face. And that's like the smart thing to do, right? Because even if that guy fucks up and goes down in 2 seconds under your, or I guess his thing, and it currently he's got 40 seconds of life that you can't do anything still, right? Like that's really the problem. And I guess that still exists under my my thing too, but I just find that shit to be incredibly frustrating.
Yeah, but you could also play like on the other side. For the people who do come back to hook, they could just down you and then down the person that unhooked you, hook that person, and then immediately hook you. Like there's 2 ways that you could like cheese that.
That would be heavily abused.
Yeah.
If it was like that.
Totally.
Yeah,
and
because
then
I
it would
feel
just be
like DS
what's even the point of running DS at that point?
No.
Yeah.
That I think that would
I mean,
strongly
I feel like
incentivize DS Unbreakable even more.
Yeah, no, actually, that's a good point.
Yeah, like I get the DS pain. I've been DS after I've literally hooked 2 other survivors. I picked up survivor number 3 and got DS. And I was like, what? And they were all sluggy. Like I was like in a different chase. But anyway, like I've definitely had that happen before. I get that's annoying, but I mean, I don't know. I just feel like so many of these nerfs are going to like gut it for people who are just want to use it for the regular like for
like anti-tunnel.
Yeah, for anti-tunnel. Like I do think that there's still a role for that. Like I think, and I get, like, yes, I hate that. I also dislike how you can cheese it. I personally don't run DS for that reason, but I think that honestly, like but survivors otherwise, like they do need something to be able to protect themselves, right? I don't know. I feel like, and as annoying as how you can cheese DS, right? How DS can be cheese, whatever, right? It's the amount of time it buys is still not is to me like not comparable to like how I don't know. Like I feel like yes, okay, yeah, you get DS right. It's annoying, it's frustrating, right? But I don't know. Like I mean, I've had like rare games where I've lost a game because I got DS because literally I forgot what order I slugged everybody and I forgot what order I hooked them in. And so I think up the wrong survivor. But like
getting DS'd is one of the most like crippling things as killer. Like because all of a sudden, if you have
it's literally the definition of a bruh moment. That's the only thing I could think of. You just pick someone up, you get DS, just go, oh, okay.
Yeah, 100%. Like you get like all of a sudden, like a lot of playing killer well, and I'm not saying I play killer that well, but at least from what I see, like is understanding pressure. Like how much pressure am I exuding on the survivors to not do generators in this very second, right? Like that's probably the most important thing about playing killer. And when you get DS, your pressure evaporates. Like
No, I
literally,
totally agree. Like I've been there. I get that. Like I literally understand that. Like that is fucked my game. I get that. I totally get it. But at the same time, like you also are like you nerf it too hard. You're also like taking away somebody's ability to play a game. Period.
100%. No, that's why, like I said earlier, like I don't think it should be gutted. Like it should absolutely be a scumbag deterrent. Because like for as much as I was saying how scummy it is when survivors do it, Freddy Krueger, the blessed killer that we all know and love, you can literally just camp with like you can camp somebody, and as long as you hit the dude before he gets done hooked, there's no chance of him getting BT. So you can just hit him down. And if you don't have DS, there's literally nothing stopping him from just picking you up again, like as soon as you get slugged. So that like it needs to stay again as like a scumbag deterrent. But in its current state, it's not a scumbag deterrent. It's a like fuck you idiot, I do what I want for 60 seconds perk.
But I mean, I feel like the percentage of survivors I run into in this game, and maybe, I know, I feel like the percentage of survivors who do use it that way compared to the general population of survivors is not. I don't think in my percentage of games, right? Like, I mean,
I think it's very low.
yeah, I think it's low.
It is low, but it's the potential. It's not like again, like that's why you don't balance like. I don't think it's smart to balance around like, oh, in my games I don't experience this. It's about like what can you do with this? It's like DS Unbreakable, right? Like, most people who have DS Unbreakable are just fucking horrible at the game and run that as so they can like, there's a bit of a band-aid and you can still stop them, no problem. But it's the potential, it's the fact that they can run two perks together and stop you from playing the video game. It's like if I had a perk that literally like every time I hook somebody, all gen progress stops for 20 seconds. Like that's basically the equivalent of it because the killer progresses the game by killing people, and that combo makes it physically like it makes it impossible to kill anybody.
Did you just describe Ruin?
Yeah, Ruin Undying.
Yeah, not everything that way, right? Is it like Thrilling Tremors? Like
yeah, like
but Thrilling Tremors is so stupid because, dude, if people are like running around like doing nothing and they run into the almost complete generator with Thrilling on it, like you've already won, man. Like they're clearly Papega as fuck. Like, but Ruin Undying, but no, I don't think it's even comparable because Ruin Undying is insanely strong and it's really good. But you can just not cleanse Ruin and just like if the killer can't apply pressure or like down anybody, then they're still gonna lose. Whereas like DS Unbreakable are activated by you winning the game. Like the only reason people get to DS Unbreakable you is because you downed them. And like does that make sense? Why I don't think they're directly comparable.
It does, but like I said, I just can't think of like I can think of literally one situation where I felt like I lost the game because of DS. Like literally one. Like I can't like I feel like the game changer potential of DS versus some of the other things. I feel it is there, but I don't know. I just don't feel that deeply about it.
Here's my take. I think that Unbreakable is more likely to change the outcome of a game than DS is.
Hell yeah, it is. Yes, without a fucking doubt. Yes, I mean,
with DS, you know where they're going.
A fucking asshole. So listen, like that is why I think that. But like 100%.
Would function differently if DS was different. If DS, like they're directly interchanged because usually the only time you get to Unbreakable is when you get tunneled off hook or like you go down. This guy has DS, so they respect it, and then you Unbreakable. Like that's usually when Unbreakable comes into effect, right?
No, not for me, but that's because if I see two or more survivors together, I will fuck them up and down them all. So that's what I use. That's when I see Unbreakable come in. Like I've been like 4 slugs on the ground, great, and then somebody gets back up. I'm like, fuck. Like, that's usually what happens in my case.
I don't think that's really that much of a problem because at that point, if there's 4 slugs and one person Unbreakables and you lose because of it, you kind of threw. You know what I mean?
I never lost because of it. I agree. I'm just saying that's when it says, but I definitely have had games where like at least somebody might escape because of that, or like somebody might like that one game I can think of, right? I had everybody down at 4 gens and then somebody Unbreakable. That game went on for like a couple more gens because it was like old Grim Pantry, right? Mm-hmm. And so that game definitely kept going for a couple more gens. But to me, that's fine. That's a risk I took by slugging everybody. You know what I mean? Like I think that's fine. That's a risk I took, and so I don't care that that happened. It's just that it did happen.
I will say though, like, I feel like the only time that DS really ends up making you go from having a winning game to a losing game is if, like, it's like that whole scenario you gave earlier. You get DS 3 times in a row, because then, you lose all your pressure. That's pretty dumb. But I feel like a singular DS, it more so is just there to deter you from the possibility that, not just one person could have it, but multiple. But then, you have the whole issue where like there's even a killer that can kind of just ignore that though. Like it's like
Yeah.
yeah, Pyramid Head who
And that is not healthy, by the way. That is so fucking unhealthy that it's like we have this perk that's really debilitating. Well, let's just release one killer who just doesn't give a shit. It's like, oh great, perfect.
yeah, like
Fucking
Pyramid Head doesn't care about the meta at all. Like he doesn't care about barbecue, he doesn't care about DS, he doesn't care about Unbreakable, he doesn't care about pop. He's just I ignore the game.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't know. Like I really I don't want to go on for too long because it turns into a whole thing. But I just don't think there is anything of equal power in Dead by Daylight to the Decisive Strike. Like it's really really insane the amount of like shit around that perk, and like their refusal to at least like address it's like the fact that it's unhealthy is like kind of ridiculous. And again, like where we started talking about this, like coup de grace is this perk that yeah you might just like be in lunge range of somebody and then you literally just lost a gen token for nothing. Like you literally compare that to a perk that again literally like it or even like here, this is a direct scenario that I'm sure you're in a 4-man Swift, you unhook somebody, the last like the guy who gets unhooked gets BT and then goes down in the exit gate, but he has DS, so he's fine. Like, you know.
But like to be fair, DS is like in its 4th iteration. Like this is literally version 4.0 of DS since the game
Well,
started.
originally it was just really stupid. Like originally it was just not well designed.
I agree, but like, but it's 4 times. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I guess I agree that yeah, if you like original version, right? You get down and and if killer picks you up, you can DS them right away. That no, I totally agree. Like, right? But it's literally been changed 4 times. Like, so I get your frustration, but it's like literally been changed 4 times. It's a lot. That's probably more than I can't even think of another perk that's been changed that much.
But it's still unhealthy in its current iteration, so I think it has to like they have to address it, you know, like
Yeah, but like saying that their priorities aren't straight to me, like in this case particularly, I don't know because like it's been they've reworked that perk so much like over the years, like it's been reworked a lot over the years, like to be fair.
But it hasn't been touched in a while though. Like they've been giving it attention, but they haven't. Well, okay, maybe it's not priorities. Maybe it's just incompetence. Like they just can't make this perk fucking.
I feel like with like all the repeated mistakes that they've been making, is that they're afraid to touch DS because of basically like everything else that they've been doing has just been wrong by the community standard. So they're afraid if they touch DS, they'll touch it too much.
Or perhaps they might be
Yeah.
afraid of the idea that with what's going on in the game right now, they might be afraid to actually change it currently, but they may have plans to do so in the future.
Or we like Bloodlust experiments. Try it out. Just for a weekend, throw on the Scott Young DS. Like, see what happens. You know what I mean?
So the thing is, one example I will compare it to is this. So like back, so for years and years, right? Right from the begin, like the game, like obsession, right? They are like you should be able to close hatch, right? And so it wasn't until 2018 when the Clown PTB where you could close hatch, and the first version of closing hatch was so killer sided, it was ridiculous. Like
Yeah.
there was no EGC, like there was just like you close the hatch, survivor was dead. Period. And so like there's just literally like right like there's nothing the survivor can do against that. So they didn't do anything about it. I remember people getting so upset, frustrated, right? Like why haven't they doing anything about it? It took almost a year to come up with the whole in-game collapse. But the in-game collapse was great, but it did take them a long time to do it. But they did it and it was awesome. So to me, it doesn't. We don't know. I mean, so I want to like be like this. Like I'm like rah rah rah. But honestly, the in-game collapse to me is a perfect example of it took them forever to get to that solution, right? And when we first saw it, right, it was almost a year later that came out. However, when it came out, it was like well thought out. It was good. Like I think in-game collapse is not like I think there are like definitely criticisms of it, but it's by far better than bullshit hat standoffs that used to exist in this game.
Yeah.
And so like
Oh
to
my
me
God.
that is so to me it's not like we don't know if they're kind of reconsidering DS and kind of thinking carefully about it behind the scenes. We don't actually know that. And so considering how many times it's being reworked, I don't know. I just feel like I'm not inclined to be too hard on them about DS because they literally have reworked it so many times.
I understand your point that like they've touched it a lot, so it's not. But for me, it's the again like and I'm not gonna go around the same loop again. It's just the power. It's just how powerful Decisive Strike is that leads me to question like what they're doing. Like, I understand. Like it's just fundamentally a difficult perk to balance because of the way it works. But I just think that like the fact that you can slap 2 perks on, and unless I'm playing on Auto Haven and if I'm really on, because I have to down people basically like 3 times as much as I would in a normal game, like you can just win for free, like just because you have Bill and the fucking the Halloween DLC, like you can literally just throw those 2 perks on it and just win. It's like Rune and Dying in low elo killer, right? You can just literally have those perks and you can't mind game for shit. You bloodless 3 everyone at every pallet, but because survivors are bad and they're uncoordinated, you just win.
I don't know. I personally have not had that experience with DS, so for me it doesn't have that impact. But I can see what you're saying.
The whole DS being used aggressively thing, like even though I'm a survivor main, I've played enough killer, and it's just like I don't really see DS being used super aggressively that often,
Really?
and I've very rarely ever even seen DS Unbreakable to begin with.
Yeah.
Well, I see DS Unbreakable pretty commonly, but I don't really see like multiple of them very often.
I was in a full lobby of DS Unbreakable like several times. Like I've seen it happen, and they're always garbage. They're always terrible at the game. They can't fucking run anything. But like they get fucking carried by perks and like Swift. Like they get carried by their like the one person who's actually like decent, and the ability to like be unable to touch them. It's like Freddy. It's like the same thing, right? Like motherfuckers be out here vaulting TL walls and shit, and they're rank 1 because they're playing this like dumbass.
I kind of feel that way about DBD in its current state, though. Like I feel like yeah, sure, survivors are being carried by perks as well, but killers in a way are also being carried by the amount of dead zones that exist in maps now, and so on and so forth, and also killers like Deathslinger.
Agreed.
And Pyramid Head.
Yeah,
It basically feels like you're signing a contractual agreement in pregame lobby to play respectfully. Like that's kind of what I feel like when I go into a game. I run Corrupt. That's the only slowdown I run. Like when I do that and I'm playing Huntress, like with no Eerie Head, like I've never touched Eerie Head, no Mori, no nothing, no map offering or anything. It's like I'm basically saying, like I'm waving the white flag, like we good, man. Like can we play on an original 15 map and like just chill out? And then sometimes the other side will just say fuck you and like shoot you in the face, you know what I mean? And like you can still win those games because people are bad, but like the power discrepancy of a double, like even like a double half Huntress with like 1 slowdown and like barbecue versus like a full 4-man on like one of the like a map that is in Auto Haven with all DS Unbreakable and like BNPs and shit, like it's not, you can't.
Well, I think on the other end, though, I feel like, this also is something that survivors do where, like, they hop into a lobby and, like, they may have those matches where they have a really chilled out loadout and, like, they're just put on their we're gonna live forevers, their borrowed times, they're just trying to have fun with their friends. Maybe they put on head on.
Sweatiest killer on the planet.
Yes. And then you put on meta.
I don't think sweaty's the right word. Like I don't think there's anything wrong. Like me playing Huntress, like I sweat a lot. Like I go for like crazy shots and stuff like that. The problem isn't like sweat in the killers, in how they're playing the video game. It's what they're bringing, I think, is the problem. Because I totally agree. Like yeah, I go into Survivor games with like fucking head on squad, fucking like no mither Sabo squad, shit like that. And yeah, like people play like Spirit with 2 double Eerie add-ons and a Mori, and it's just like literally like the other person just decides whether or not you get to have fun. And that I think is maybe like the most fundamental problem with this game, is that like you're basically just like gambling on the other side wanting you to have a good time. And I'm not saying that you have to be the guardian of other people's fun or something like that, but when there's options in the game that are just like outright like no counterplay,
nuclear options.
Exactly, nuclear options. It's just really bad, and it encourages like BM and like really shitty behavior.
Alright, well, is there anything else we would like to add on to this Pandora's box of a discussion?
I told you,
I
was like, I'm gonna start talking about the best, and it's just like we spiral down.
Yeah, this is the rabbit hole we're going down right now.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
that's pretty fair, honestly.
It is. Like, I think, there are some nuclear options that they should look at to make sure, like, they aren't the nuclear options. And I feel like there is some ways that they could be addressing these problems. But with that being said, it all comes down to, like, it may be the scenario where they might just be being careful because of the amount of times they've had to change a certain thing in the past. Like, let's just pull up Nurse and then DS as an example. They've both been changed a lot in this game in its history. I think they want to make sure that the next time they change DS, it's not just the next
It's
big
probably
problem
for the
again.
better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, like, I remember, I think when I joined DS is like, if you were the obsession, like, what was it? You could wiggle. Like, you didn't have to wiggle. I don't remember what that one was.
You didn't have to wiggle
You had to, like,
with it.
wiggle. You had to
So what it
wiggle.
was is a non-obsession DS was that you had to wiggle,
You had to
like,
wiggle, yeah.
35%, and
Yeah.
then you could get DS. Walmart DS was like the fucking worst. Like those that DS.
Yeah.
was
that
like,
was
so
trash.
so
Dude, that
I
was the
remember
killer that like
those.
dribbled you 10, 30
Yeah,
times.
the dribbling. Like, I came from that. So this DS doesn't bother me. Like, even when I play killer, if I get DS, I'm like, okay, whatever, and then I just down them and kill them after that. Like, I don't know. Like, just because I remember what it used to be, I don't care about this one because the first
Same.
one was so much worse. Like,
Same a million times. Yes, like I can't even agree with you more there.
See,
Like
from
the
your
last
perspective,
version was so much worse. Like to me, I'm just like, this is fine.
see, as a newer player, it makes sense why you despise DS so much. But if you know what me and Karen had to go through, it's like, dude,
No,
this is
I
great.
think that's definitely part of it. It's like my freshness to the game. But I could also say that your apathy towards DS is a result of you experiencing a more broken version of the perk. Like,
Absolutely, yes, yeah. That's probably. I mean, absolutely. I think so for sure. Yeah.
But I don't know. It's one of those discussions that'll never end because, like, fundamentally, like a problem with the game for new players and for everyone is like tunneling and camping. To quote the Reddit, like everyone hates it, and like for good reason. Like memes aside, like it is really unfortunate when people play like that. It really denies you fun, and DS is like kind of the only thing stopping it. So that I think that's maybe the biggest reason is the amount of like public outcry about like tunneling and camping and how like DS is kind of the only thing stopping that. So like they're hesitant to change it because of that. It's just a game. Like and you know what? Honestly, getting DS'd one time, like you said, is really not the end of the world. If one person has DS, it's not the end of the world. It's 4 DSs. That's like a real thing. And this is coming from a guy. I run DS, because I fucking don't want to get tunneled off first hook by some scumbag piece of shit. You know what I mean? Like, it's just that, like, if it functioned more like that and not in this like hyper aggressive, like, because people just don't play the game. Like, at least in my experience, like when people have active DS, they just don't care. Like, they're not playing smart at all because they just know they're like, I can like I can do. And it's not about like you don't get DS'd 4 times in a row. It's the threat, right? It's like every time you pull someone off a hook, there's 60 seconds where you can't put them back on a hook, and 60 seconds in a Dead by Daylight game is a lot. It's a lot of time, especially when people split up on gens. That's my spiel with DS. I don't want to keep talking about it anymore.
Okay, well in that case, so we do have one other topic for the night if we're happy with this already.
Yeah.
So the last topic is the DC penalties. So they've been in the game for a while, and well, whether we like them or not, they've been here for a while now, and they've been disabled, re-enabled, etc. And so, where do we feel the DC penalties are at right now? Because in my personal opinion, I think the concept of having them is fine, right? But the timing of it is not so great due to the fact that there's a lot of reasons to why someone might want to DC, because they may actually have like a health problem. In the case of, like, let's say, I know one of the mods for DBD. What was that?
Clown's bottles causing you epilepsy or whatever.
Yeah, so you could have like you get super dizzy from that, or in another case you may have another issue where you're playing against plague, and I know that some people actually genuinely get sick from seeing her puke. Some people had some issues with Doctor's flash whenever he would shock you, and then you have another example where one of the mods for the game actually has a real case of chorophobia, not because they're afraid of any clown, but because of the very specific way that the clown is modeled. His very specific design actually triggers a severe case of chorophobia for them, and they just simply cannot play against that. Not because they don't want to, but because they legitimately cannot.
There's a lot of reasons why you might want a DC, and I think like distilling it down to just like the fucking rank 18 David who got caught first and is salty about it is really skimming the issue. Outside of like I don't want to talk like legit, like there are absolutely legitimate health things like Toothy just said that like of course should be addressed, and that's like a reason.
Yeah.
But I don't personally suffer from that, so I don't want to white knight on their behalf. You know what I mean?
I actually suffer from dizziness. I do have a pretty severe case of vertigo. So going against Clown, for example, and like his bottles actually do make me like sick.
Mhm. So yeah, so that's like a perfect reason why like you shouldn't really have to play that match out. But
So
like,
I just think penalties like as they are is like Vamp said, like came at a wrong time, and I personally think that they're just poorly like all around design. Like instead of penalizing you for wanting to not play a match, I think they should rather look into why people DC, such as like health problems, or there's a bug, or even like if you're literally being slugged for literally a full whole 4 minutes and just to bleed out, like o-
Yeah.
I should not be forced to stay in the game.
no, I completely agree. I think that the real kicker for me though, I if I'm slugged for 4 minutes, I'm the guy who's like, okay, me being slugged is still putting some amount of pressure in this game. So much as this sucks, I'm going to bear it out. I think the hill bug is like the perfect anachronism of why DC penalties shouldn't exist, because the game is literally just not functional enough.
I'm not
Yeah.
saying I'm not saying that the game is like significantly more enjoyable when I can DC, but
Yes.
Well, and another example,
I will 100% say it is.
Yeah.
like
I'll be completely honest. I actually do statistically like finding myself playing the game a lot more when penalties are disabled.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, dude. It's like it's not like some like random occurrence why that is.
things
Because like
we're playing.
it's like, oh yeah, I DC, I get a 5-minute penalty, but to me it's like when I come back to the lobby and I see that, I just like, fuck
It's
this,
enough
I'm
DVD for
done.
today. Yeah.
I close the game and I just go right on something else. I will not touch DBD for the rest of the day.
Yeah, I don't think DBD is a game that should have it. Just like because we did say like the bugs, but also because why should you be forced to play a game that you find unfun? Like if I'm
Right,
playing
'cause-
against a Forever Freddy, I don't want to be there,
Nobody
and
wants-
I'll probably
Yeah.
just run at him and kill myself anyway. So what did that accomplish?
My
Like-
teammates say if my teammates
Yeah,
say
we
that, I'm just gonna
AFK.
I'm finna alt tab. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
bro.
like what does that accomplish? I
Like
didn't
literally,
play
I'd
the game.
rather if I was a survivor in that situation, I would literally have my teammate DC than just sit there AFK.
Yeah, and plus, oh shit, I lost what I was gonna say. Fuck. It's
Like
gone.
I've even had cases where like I don't want to play a game, so I try to suicide on Hook, but I end up Kobeing, and I'm just like, okay, I'm just gonna
that's
DC.
painful. Yeah,
At
that's
that-
painful.
At that point, I just DC because
Oh.
I'm not even gonna.
Survivor queues right now are awful, and
Yes.
if I DC penalties on top of that, I do not play this game unless it is like noon, and that is it. Because I can't play it any other time. Because if I want to play Survivor late at night, the queues are almost as
Literally
long
like
as
10
DC
minutes
penalties.
long.
Yeah, and it's so painful. Like, why are you gonna add that?
And then you and then you-
Exactly. Like with the queue times, like honestly, what's even the point?
no, yeah, you wait, and then you'll wait 10 minutes to get into a lobby with like a Forever Freddy, right? And then you just leave, and it's like,
Yeah.
That's actually
Yeah.
one thing I wanted to bring up, where it's like, alright, so part of what makes it really good to move on in Match and DB is that normally you're able to immediately move on to the next game. Like, you have one frustrating game, it's like, okay, you know what, that match sucked, I can just move on to the next one now. But you see, then you get to the point where it's like, you play Survivor late at night or you play Killer early in the morning, you get one frustrating game, it's whatever, but then you wait 10 minutes, it sticks with you, you cannot drop it, and then when you try to get into another game, you're already still thinking of it because of how long you had to stick with those thoughts from the queue times. Then you get another frustrating game where, you know what, maybe even play worse due to the fact that you're still thinking about that previous match. And then all of a
Yeah.
sudden, you're kind of going downhill. And then you're like, you know what, fuck it, I'm a DC now because I'm not having fun with this one either. Just, no fun matches whatsoever. And then,
Honestly, I'd
And-
rather accept that than
And
be
that's
punished.
probably why I play the game more when penalties are disabled, because like I can just instantly leave the match and just move on to my to the
Yeah.
next one within like literally like either a minute or 2 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Like if I'm a perkless Legion, I load into Dead Dog. I'm not gonna play that shit out.
Yeah.
Yeah, or like hunters on Haddonfield or
Yeah,
something.
exactly.
Like, or
Like
any indoor
it's
map.
it's not
Yeah.
just survivors. It's legit both sides. If they don't want to play against something, they
Oh
don't
yeah.
have to.
No,
Or
like,
just,
dude,
Hawkins is.
if you get Haddon Fund, like if I load into a game and there's a Haddonfield offering and a Midwich offering, like fuck me if I'm playing that out if I can just DC.
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
I'm
And
gonna,
like,
I'm gonna load into the game. There's gonna be some fucker on object looking at me across the map on Haddonfield, and it's like no, like I just refuse to engage with this. Like this is just not like
yeah. And the thing about it is though, is that obviously, maybe you play worse, like maybe you play worse in the next game, or like maybe it's 6 you have a bunch of bad games, but like even then you're still playing the game. You don't fucking like, oh, the killer hit me, I'm out of this game. Like I feel
yeah,
like a
like,
lot of majority of reasonable people aren't gonna be like, oh, the killer, I'm on me, I'm got a DC, I'm
I-
gone.
I brought this up to Toothy last night, and let me just start by saying I completely agree that DC penalties shouldn't exist for the reason we talked about before. But one thing that I will bring up is like when DC penalties didn't exist, I was probably getting a DC in about 70% of the games I played as Huntress. And now that they're enabled, it's not as common. So I do think that it does deter people from DCing to some capacity at a low rank, likely, because a lot of the DCs I'm talking about are like I said, I hate to single out David King. It's just always fucking David King. It's like a rank 16 David, and you find them first, and they go down and they don't like they DC. It deters that a bit, I think.
Well, I think a good alternative, honestly, like, is just trash the penalty system and just do like DVD Mobile has and just bring DC bots into the game.
Hell
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
exactly. Yes, there's a lot of lessons they can learn from DBD Mobile, but that is definitely one of them.
See, the
Exactly.
thing
You guys aren't playing against bots. What? Wait, I
is,
think.
see, honestly though, is that I can agree that like, yeah, when they're enabled, obviously people are gonna DC less because they want to hold that like DC when they do, right? For like the like the absolute, because like obviously I'll DC for a lot of reasons, but I
For the
feel like
absolute
that.
worst game.
Yeah, exactly. But I feel like there's too many things that outweigh you wanting to DC that then like for like the two examples of like, oh, got hit once time to DC. That doesn't happen that much.
It was
Like
happening
that,
pretty regularly to me.
I don't know. Maybe it's just a lower rank thing, but like legit in like
Well, I
my
mean,
games,
I was
like
I was red rank, but like, come on, like MMO.
the reasons you'd want to DC other than like, oh, the killer hit me, I'm out, like significantly outweigh that.
Yeah, and to be fair, the people who I see DC now are still the ones that like you're talking about. Like if they go down really quickly because they got outplayed, like they'll DC even with penalties on.
Yeah.
But then people who want to DC because they're not having fun or whatever, like we
Just want
said,
to
will
move
just
on with their
AFK
life.
or
Yeah.
yeah, like we
And
just
the other
want
thing
to
I'll
leave.
point out is that in the long run, while yes, you are like allowing others to have more fun in the moment, I think that in the long run it may actually hurt the player base in the sense that because people will be holding on to that, oh my god, I'm not having any fun with this match, but I don't want to eat a penalty, you end up actually dragging players away in the long run because it's like they don't have the option for that one game that wasn't so fun every now and then. Because then they
Yeah.
have to wait 5 minutes, then they have the extended queue times, and it's not even for the guarantee that the next match will be any better either, because like then you get that Forever Freddy again, or if you're killer you get like Ormond,
I'm not.
whatever the scenario may
like,
be.
I've
if
had a day where I had nothing but Deathslinger after Deathslinger after
Yes,
Deathslinger,
it's the
and I'm not
worst.
even exaggerating either. And it's just like it's like with the penalty system, I'm just not even gonna touch this game.
No, I completely agree. And
honestly though, like it's just if you got like, let's say I'm playing Survivor, right, or like I'm playing Killer, right, and I got Midwich like 700 times in a row, I'm not gonna DC from all 700 of them. I'm just gonna be like, bro, I'm just gonna bring my there's things you can do, like if I get Deathslinger like or like Forever
mean-
Freddy like 10 times in a row, I'm gonna change my build up to like.
I mean, sure, you like you can bring a map offering against a certain map, or you can change your like perk loadout, but that doesn't stop like the whole you getting that killer you
Yeah,
don't
I know,
like.
I know. That's what I'm saying. But like, you're not gonna DC from all of them, right? Just like less enjoyable.
no, 100%. I should say also, like, me saying that, like, I notice people that, like, personal recollection is like one of the most unreliable things. Like, it could 100% just be like circumstantial, just like the times of day I play versus the types of Survivor can be different or something like that.
Yeah.
But I 100% agree that, like, it doesn't really deter people from DCing like too much. Like, I noticed it did a bit, but even then not that significantly. And just like for all the reasons we were talking about before, like, I just think fundamentally, like, it just shouldn't be a thing in the game, because like there's so many infinite reasons why a game is just not worth entertaining anymore, that like
Yeah.
until that shit is addressed, like until every match of DBD is as fun as like Billy on Wrecker's Yard, like again, like it's both sides are competent, like until you can confidently say that every game is going to be like that fair and that skill based and that good, you just can't have it.
Like,
Well, I feel as
if I'm gonna be perfectly honest, like, I haven't touched this game in months, up until the past couple days. And the whole reasoning why is actually because of penalties. I don't want to play this game if I'm gonna get penalized because I leave a match. Like, I really don't. Like, I probably haven't played this game since early August. And that's just because, like, I just feel like the game is an unhealthy state. Like, it's not really fun or enjoyable.
And that kind of
Especially
goes
since
back.
you get penalized.
And that goes back to what I was saying, where in the short term, yeah, you're going to be helping out those few players who get annoyed about the 1DC, which I agree, yeah, that has the potential to ruin games, but yet in the long run, you're going to have these cases where, you know, your older players are just kind of tired of seeing, like, you know, the same thing over and over again. The ones who get, like, you know, bored of a certain set of conditions, they're just going to leave. Like, that's just sort of what's happened in the past, and that's sort of what's happening now. In fact, I think it was actually last Wednesday we brought up the dip in the player base, or it might have been for the first podcast actually, where there was like a 22%
Because
like
of the Halloween event.
yeah, like, you know, you had the event, but I also think there may have been, like, you know, long-term frustrations there, in the sense that, you know, there's sort of that, am I having fun right now? If the answer is no, people are just gonna get up and go to a different game.
Yeah, then why would you play? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Because
I
you
don't
had
know,
like,
wait, so is this a 22% dip like within the last month or so? When's this 22% dip?
it was actually within the past month, but they made up for it after the free weekend.
Gotcha. Because like part of me feels like there's also like what Phasmo and Among Us that also came out around the
Yes.
same time too. So I don't know. I mean, I think there's like so many. I mean, there's so many variables. I think it's hard to say.
I think considering like the timing of everything, I don't know if Tooth did mention it, but Ruin Undying was the thing, because like your regulars, like your 6K hour people aren't going to stop playing, because you know you get with your friends
Ruin Undying, yeah.
easily. But when you're new, like when you're really new and you don't really know any better, if you want to play Survivor and you keep going to games like back to back where you're just like losing like crazy because of 2 perks. Like
I mean, you don't even have to be new to hate Ruin Undying. I hate Ruin Undying.
100%. Like
It's so boring to load into a game, touch a gen, hear Ruin go off, and then break a totem in the distance and Ruin's still up. And then I finish the gen and I have my spine show light up because Tinkerer. I want to die. Like literally almost all of my games are like this. It's so boring.
It becomes it's super boring, and it's just
Like, why am I playing this game if I am going to load into the same game every time?
Mm-hmm. No, 100%. I completely agree. And that was like back to the first point, priorities. So they nerfed Pop like right around this 22% dip, when like I mean, like a lot of people
Quote unquote nerf.
Yeah, well, they did. Like they pretty. I'm not going into it, but like I think the 15 seconds was like pretty. Like I don't run Pop anymore because of that. But like they nerfed it. They made that a thing. So all of a sudden, like even though I don't think anyone's going to be on the Pop goes the Weasel fan club train, at least it's different. At least the counterplay and like the way you play around it is like different than just Ruin and dying every single game back to back to back to back. So at a time where they're losing players because the game has no fucking variety anymore because this perk combination is completely busted and overrated, they took like basically the only slightly equal strength thing you could run, which was Corrupt Pop, which I ran for a very long time, is gutted. Not completely, but it's
I wouldn't say gutted.
Not gutted, but it's not as effective as it used to be. I personally I got a lot of pops in the 50-second range because I would like commit to chases. But that's a me thing.
I think what you might be getting at here is that, so in a time where, like, people were kind of iffy on, like, their choices, they made Ruin and Die more appealing because, alright, let's be honest, the pop nerf isn't really a big deal because, it's limiting the amount of time that it's active for, yes, but it's the same perk conceptually. It's just that, it comes at a time where Ruin and Dying was just, a really popular combination, and now that kind of, like, putting the final nail in the coffin there.
No, 100%. And I think like having more variety in their meta is like another kind of like thing. Like like Toothy's a big Surge guy. He's a Surge stan. Surge is objectively not a good perk, in the grand scheme of things. But like you run it because it's unique and it's interesting and it has different play.
Because I think that people will approach it differently, and that's the variety that people want. In fact, I think a lot of the reasons why people just don't want to like play match to match as much anymore is because you don't really see that variety. And I think having that one game you load into where there's actually some variety gives really
That's
good
what makes it
incentive.
fun.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why I run Strider because I just love imagining people like, does this fucking Huntress have Strider? Like, what the fuck?
With the whole DC thing I was thinking about, right? I was actually wondering if they should like rework the ranking system and then just have like a casual mode and like a rank queue.
That would be bad. That would be really, really, really bad. Because ranked DBD would be so shit. It would be so garbage. It would literally be like, how you're talking about you hate going against the same thing every time? Get ready.
You would literally see DS Unbreakable Soul Guard
Yeah,
every
that would be the
single
boring.
game.
And every game would be against Spirit or Nurse or Hag, and they would play like scumbags, and it would be so unfun. And like a big problem with this game is the divided community, and it would just like stake it so hard. It would be I had considered that a while ago, but like when you start thinking about it and putting it under scrutiny, like remember rank reset, like remember how or not rank reset, excuse me, MMR. Remember how much fun it was to go against fucking rank 20 Dwights in every game, and just like you don't need more dividing the community.
Well, I think the other thing is that, like, I feel like the system they have right now is actually not all that bad for the kind of the game that we have right now. I just think that it's just a little bit off is all. For instance, like, I think instead of judging players as individuals, they should be judged as a team. So, as a group of 4 survivors, your performance should be judged based off of how well all 4 of you did together. And I think that would help a lot with, like, making it so that people are more based around playing around their teams. And then for killers, it's just, the system needs to be adjusted so it more accurately reflects on the killer that they're playing. Because the emblem system does not reflect on that very fairly in the sense that, Legion is going to pip a hell of a lot more often than, let's say, a Plague or a Billy that's always using their power.
No, 100%.
So, I think when it comes to, like, really getting people to be in the matches that they should be in, I think that they should be adjusting how they judge a certain match based off of the circumstances at play. So, as a team, you should be judged, and as a killer, you should be judged on the power that you're using.
Well, yeah, it's kind of like we were saying earlier. Like if the emblem system accurately displayed the way you actually did in a match, it would like the matchmaking would improve because it could actually kind of gauge something. Whereas you can make Red Rank Survivor gen jockeying for your friends, and like you wouldn't know what like any loop in the game is, and you can't run.
And that's why they should be judged as a team because in that case, while yes, those other survivors would be getting dragged up the ranks, eventually there's going to come a time where they're going to have to take the chases, and, well, if their team performs poorly, then they're going down.
No, 100%.
Because it should be judged as a team-based game rather than just, 4 individuals, although, every survivor does have the potential to actually run a good chunk of the killers. Not all of them, because there are some of the more uncounterable ones, but, I think it really comes down to team performance there, which is where we may see, like, these matches where people feel like they're in a very unfair circumstance, or, whatever the scenario may be. But is there anything else you would like to add on to DC penalties? Like, what do we all think would be, like, the fair way to approach this whole thing where there's just so many reasons to DC, even if it's not just, even if it's not just about like how the match is going, but like other reasons, like health reasons, like what do we think is a fair way to approach this?
I think there should be
Just trash the system and replace it with
yeah.
bots.
Honestly, just keep DC penalties on until a large majority can agree that we don't need them.
Or like you could like, I do think that if you're DCing from every match, 10 matches in a row, there needs to be some repercussion for that, because that's like 15 survivors now. There are 30, 30 survivors that literally had to play out a game at 4 gens with 3 people.
Yeah.
Losing.
Or just not penalize like the first 2 or 3 DCs that you do within 24
Honestly,
hours.
if someone disconnects in the first like 2 minutes of a game, we should just cancel the game.
Yes,
Yeah.
that should be 100%. That would certainly help it too. But I just think like, the first couple should be fine, but after a bit, or maybe just if the reporting system was more robust, and I would believe that it worked.
Yes, I reported the survivors immediately sent to the paper shredder.
I got reported by this friend of mine, literally like 50 games back to back. Now, granted, it was mostly for playing Meg, but like nothing happened. Like 50 reports on one account should do something, but
Well, I think it's because it's the same person, so I feel like they're not looking at how often the same person is reporting you, because that would be pretty that there would be a lot of potential. Yeah.
Very,
Absolutely. And then like they also, if you over report, they start ignoring your reports too.
That could be it. That could be part of it as well.
Yeah, because like you probably shouldn't be looking at behavior as as a company that's just gonna be like, oh yeah, a bunch of reports, we're gonna ban that. Like I don't think that's how they're looking at that. I think they're looking at how often individual unique players are reporting the same person.
Very fair. Very fair.
And of course, they're also looking for evidence. So if someone is just reporting every game because it's like, oh wow, this person's cheating, well, they're gonna want video evidence.
Mm-hmm.
And they're also gonna want more information that you'll have to fill out. So I mean, I don't think that's how they're looking at it.
No, I'm pretty sure that their reporting system on their website is also a lot more like in depth than just calling someone a Meg in endgame chat.
No, it definitely is. It's very in depth in the sense that they tell you what they need to know, which is like Steam profile account information. I think like they need like your what is it, your Steam ID or whatever?
You need like your
DVD
cloud account.
ID.
Yeah. So they need information to make sure it's that the right person. Like I feel like they're very careful about that. Any game that's large is. Alright, so do you have any more to add on to DC penalties?
No, that's pretty good.
No.
I don't have anything else.
Alright, well, I think this is probably where we're going to end off the podcast here, so thank you so much for everyone who showed up. Thank you to Zimnex, Welsh.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, man.
Karen, Dwight.
Thank you.
Morg.
Thank you.
And Posh, who unfortunately had to go about an hour ago. So I thank everybody for showing up, and for anybody who is still watching after all this, we will have another podcast on Saturday, which will be taking a look into the comp scene of DBD. So we'll have some guests ready for that on Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern. And for any of you who enjoyed any of our guests on our podcast tonight, feel free to type in !podcast. Doing so will give you a link to our Google Sheets, which will also give you links to the Twitch or the Twitter or even the YouTube if they have one of their accounts, and just check them out. With that being said, I hope that everyone enjoyed the podcast that we had tonight, and I'm looking forward to doing more of them. Thank you so much for everybody who showed up, everyone who's here, and have a great night.